We've already got comments. Hey, we're live.
Oh my God.
I am Sleepy Reader. I almost forgot who I am, aka Damien, and I have with me, meanwhile at the podcast, aka George.
Hello, everybody.
Whose mouth has disappeared.
Yeah, well, I think via the internet now we're physically distanced enough that maybe I can take this off now. I think that's I can do that, right?
Notice, whether you've had a mint or not.
Okay, yeah, no, okay, that might be a little better. Okay, I think we qualify for being physically distanced enough. So I can take this off.
There's a handsome man under there. So
well, I'll put it back on. I know. I see the comments. Put it back on. Put it back on. Okay, you got it, guys. It's back on.
Hey, we already have some cool people in our comments.
Please.
We've got Sam from Sam's Tangled Web, superhero from here in Portland. And we've got Unstoppable. Oh, I'm not going to say that out loud. But Unstoppable Knock. And
the Unstoppable KB.
Yes. Yeah, we are doing the previews show, but I want to, and Unstoppable Knock asks if it's the new previews, and it will be these most recent preview catalog. Hopefully I got the right one. But I want to introduce my co-host here more properly. This is George, and he has an awesome podcast called Meanwhile on the Podcast, which actually comes out every week on Saturday, amazingly. Yeah. And I posted a link down below that you can get to his website, the website for the podcast.
Okay.
Where else can they find your podcast, George?
Well, if you want to check us out on social media, we're on Meanwhile the Podcast on Facebook and Meanwhile ATP on Twitter and Instagram. And I am one of 3 hosts. My other co-hosts are Kristen Gallhofer. She and her husband, Rich Gallhofer, are co-owners of Comic Logic in Ashburn, Virginia, a comic book shop. So a lot of you folks out there know a lot about your comic book shop. So in Northern Virginia, Comic Logic is the place to be. So if you're anywhere near Northern Virginia, go on in. They'd love to see you. They have they're open now. We're in phase 1 or phase 2, but we're open even during the pandemic. They had limited hours, curbside pickup, things like that. Even when publishing and distribution wasn't going on, they were open. The doors were open. So Kristen is one of my co-hosts. And Rodney Roberts is another one of my co-hosts. He is a graphic artist. And if you ever listen to the show, you'll hear that he is also known as the Art Nerd. Art Nerd with 2 R's in the word nerd. You can check him out at The Art Nerd on Instagram. Again, 2 R's in the word nerd. And Art Nerd, 2 R's in the word nerd, on Facebook. So little difference there. The Art Nerd on Instagram, Art Nerd on Facebook. And if you listen to the show, you'll hear that he is currently doing commissions for something called 90s to the Extreme with an organization called Artists Unite. So check him out on Instagram and Facebook and see if you're interested in a commission about a 90s character. He's the man to go to. He's doing something now with a group called Artists Unite. So check that out if you have any interest in sketch cards and maybe if you're a child of the 90s.
So along with Sam and Unstoppable Blocka, we've got Gore Vidal, who's an old YouTube friend of mine. Love Gore. We've got Chaos in Comics, who has a awesome channel where he reviews a lot of comics. I think he's slowed down recently, but I'm sure he'll be back in full form soon. And we have Jack Yo, another great commenter. I don't think Jack has a channel. And then famous bluesman Robert Johnson has not showed up on my show before, but I am a huge blues fan, so I love that Robert Johnson is following here.
You never know who's going to show up on Sleepy Reader 666.
And Chaos and Comics also asked, are we going through previews for March 2010? Yes, that's exactly what we're doing, March 2010. I have saved every copy of previews, and it fills 3 bedrooms in this house. No, sadly I throw previews out every month because it would be impossible to.
My co-host Rodney has mentioned that he has all his previews.
Really? And does he still get them?
I don't believe he still gets them. That part I can't tell you, but I mean, probably he has that one for March 2010, and he has all his Wizard magazines. He just told us that on this week's show.
And one of Gore Vidal's things is he's allergic to the series Saga, and he's worried we might talk about it tonight.
Yeah, well, I can guarantee I have no intention of talking about it, but I know that you have an EpiPen just in case, because it's your channel and for first aid purposes and OSHA requirements, you have that?
Yes.
Okay, good.
And
so
I have
Gore, you're fine. You're fine.
We got Shark Lagoon and Rodney Roberts. His ears are burning. The artist himself.
There he is, the art nerd himself, with 2 R's in the word nerd.
So Rodney, we've advertised you. We'll after this is no longer live, I'll try to find a link to Rodney.
Oh, and you missed Tredge. You can't forget Tredge. Anybody with a double name like that.
Tredge. Hey, Tredge.
Tredge squared.
He likes your hat. Is that someone you know?
It is somebody I know, and we were both fans of the New York Mets. Please no, if you're not a fan of the Mets or you're a baseball fan, I really don't want any trash talk right now. There's no baseball right now. We're all in neutral territory.
Yeah, I would only trash all of baseball, but not the Mets themselves.
Hey, since you mentioned that, Rodney Roberts himself, my co-host, the art nerd himself, Rodney, while you're watching, we discussed this on the show that is going to be posted on Saturday. We were talking about previews, and actually I didn't know I was going to be doing this today. So unfortunately, Damien, when Saturday show posts, I won't be talking about this because I know we were doing this.
Oh, I don't need it promoted. This is just for fun.
However, we did bring up that Rodney does sketch cards for Topps, and he brought up what he is doing now when it comes to a future sketch card set. And believe it or not, I had mentioned that I thought I saw in previews that the sketch card set that he is working on was in previews, and sure enough it is. And I don't want to forget, because I know how these previews discussions can go. I used to do them with Eric on Longbox Review all the time, so I know how they can go. But here, I don't know, how do we do this? The Star Wars Holocron series trading cards. Now, Rodney, if you're watching, is this it?
Art there?
No. But
he's part of that set.
I believe this is the one he was talking about. So, Rodney, if you're watching, can you confirm or deny that this is the set on which you are working right now? He might be even be doing it right now while he's listening.
Yes, Wizard is biblical in its thickness. It is probably a little thinner than it used to be. I'm not sure. And we don't have the DC extra catalog, just the Marvel one, because DC has opted out.
Yes.
Jack Yo keeps all his previews until the books come out. It's about 3 months.
Yeah.
Gore Vidal is going to set his lawyers on us if we talk about Saga.
Oh, no. Okay.
And Chaos and Comics has already spent $366 looking through previews part way. And Jack is impressed by how much Chaos is spending. So is Sam. And so some the lawyers won't be going after Unstoppable K.
Mm-hmm.
And Rodney said those are the cards, and he's drawing them as we speak.
So there you go, folks. If you decided to tune in somehow vicariously, you are living through an artist who is doing some work right now for a future Topps Star Wars set, trading card set. And
I wonder if Rodney is drawing digitally or physically. Maybe he'll tell us.
No, he draws physically because it's actual original artwork.
Oh, it's the original artwork cards. I've heard him talk about it.
Yeah. So these are, obviously ultra limited. So he is one of a few artists whose cards are randomly inserted in packs. And if you're one of those lucky people who gets it, you have a piece of original artwork on a sketch card.
And greetings to Comic Crack, Terrence, the most famous man in Winnipeg, as far as I'm concerned, because he's the only man in Winnipeg I know. Gore never reads previews, but he likes watching us talk about it. He hasn't spent the money yet. Chaos and Comics Chris has not spent the $366 yet. So let's move on. And did you look through the Marvel catalog at all?
Yes, I did. Do you want to start there?
Yeah, since it's smaller and I have less stuff to say there, but it's kind of fun to look through. I don't add a lot of Marvel stuff to my poll, but some. And I guess I noticed that they were rebooting Iron Man.
Yeah, yet another Iron Man #1.
Yes, he's been rebooted a lot, even more than some lately. I guess because a new creative team is on it. Christopher Cantwell and Kei-Fu. I think he was the one who was doing Valkyrie before.
You may be right
So
about that. I don't know.
I may check that out because I'm interested in that creative team.
Well, I mean, the wraparound cover is nice. You know, you can always rely on Alex Ross, right? But I do like these timeless variants that Alex Ross is doing. They're scattered throughout the previews. So I think I like, let's see, I'm not as good at this as you are, Damien, so I apologize to the viewer. But I think I like that Iron Man pose that Alex Ross did. Even better than the big mashup with all his villains that he did, that I guess is the main cover.
Oh.
Yeah. I don't know why.
How did I miss that cover?
And there are a bunch of those variants throughout. And I, they're probably even more than are pictured throughout the book.
I think I like the wraparound better, to tell you the truth. I love wraparound covers.
Yeah.
So it's more fun.
But it's not going to entice me to buy.
Yeah, I think that Sam is saying that the Marvel preview book is thinner.
Yeah, definitely.
Marvel has been the slowest, or one of the slowest. I guess Dark Horse has been slow too to release stuff since COVID happened.
I seem to recall when I used to do these with Eric of Longbox Review that Marvel could have been up to about 150 pages. So, I mean, it's down by about a third. But then again, we're still post-pandemic, so who knows what's going to happen in a couple of months.
Yeah. So what else? What do you have? My next one is on page 25.
All right, well, I mean, I don't know how the viewers now. I guess we have to explain here really quick. I'm a podcaster. I record, I edit afterwards. I've only been on one live stream with Damien prior to this, so and I see all the comments rolling in, which I did not see the last time that we were doing this. I didn't click the right button.
Less viewers then.
Oh, okay. But some of your viewers may be X-Men fans, so if anybody pipes in, I was just interested in seeing. Is anybody going to buy this X or 10 of Swords?
I am not. Are you?
No. I mean, the Mark Brooks cover is beautiful, but I just can't.
Any X-Men I do buy will probably be in trade after the fact.
These
or
$1
maybe just digitally.
These $1 True Believers seem to focus on villains, or at least either villains or anti-heroes.
Right.
And a lot of these I have read before. I mean, they're good. I don't know if I mean, if you want to just pick one up for $1, that's not so bad.
Yeah, I could see picking up a number of these. Maybe the Magic one.
Yeah, on pages 8 and 9.
Yeah. My shop does not carry the True Believers, so it's only when I go into other shops, which are also nearby me, except that those ones are still just pickup only. So I'm kind of out in the cold there.
Well, and then moving on, getting toward the, what'd you say it was, page 25 was your next one?
Yeah, I guess it actually starts on 23. The one that's on 23, 24, and 25.
All right. Well, prior to that, with legacy numbering, apparently the Amazing Spider-Man is going to be hitting 850. And the old curmudgeon in me says they don't make anniversary issues like they used to. But, well, I'm not interested at all in Amazing Spider-Man 850. I do like this cover.
That is a nice cover.
I think that's a striking cover of the Green Goblin there.
How much are they charging for that?
You know what? Let's see. Would they tell you in here what they're charging?
Oh, it's a variant cover, so they won't. No.
Yeah, and I don't.
Since it's $8.50, I'm assuming. Yes, it's a $10 comic book. Anytime they hit a milestone now, it's a $10 comic book.
Yeah, but some of these variants may even be more than that.
True, very true.
I guess depending on what the ratio is, which I do not see in here. So why don't you talk about page 23, which I find very interesting? Well,
apparently, Ultraman is now a Marvel comic book.
And this Alex Ross cover, I mean, wouldn't you? I'm not going to put a poster on my wall, but I'll take it postcard size.
I
frame it for my desk, right?
I need to see what the interior art looks like. I would be tempted to get this if I liked the interior art.
It's a cool cover.
The writers are not people I know very well, Kyle Higgins and Matt Groom. And the artist is Francisco Mana. with Michael Cho. So I don't know who Francisco Mana is. Seems odd that Michael Cho would be the second person.
Yeah. Could be interesting. And on page 26 is one of, well, actually, maybe some of those X or 10 of Swords. I don't know how it's supposed to be pronounced, but some of them might be resolicits. Like this Black Widow, I think, is a resolicit from before the pandemic.
Oh, probably quite a lot of these will be resolicits.
Yeah, which might also lend to why this is thinner than what we were accustomed to, say, in those heady years like 2019.
Right.
You know, yeah.
Well, I don't know if they'll be doing it by when is products for September? But right now, Marvel's only putting out books like every other week.
Yeah, I was in Comic Logic this past Wednesday, and really, I think they said no, there were no new Marvel or DC, at least that they got.
Right.
So, I mean, the new shelf was pretty bare. They had stuff on it from the previous week and some trades and stuff like that, which is not normal pre-pandemic.
Sam says, I know nothing about Ultraman. I think he comes out of manga, and I know him as a TV show I saw as a kid occasionally, a Japanese show that they translated.
In fact, there's a photo, probably from the TV show, right?
I think he's a robot, or is he a man inside a robot? I can't even remember.
Does it say?
But so, and I wonder, is he part of the Marvel universe now, or are they just doing a separate Ultraman comic? You know, will he show up the way Conan does in the Marvel universe now? My next Marvel one that interested me was on page 31.
Okay. I do see that Chaos and Comics says Marvel is getting all the licenses, you know, Ultraman, and they just announced Alien and Predator. So, yes, they are getting all the licenses.
Right. And my big question is, will they then have them meet the Marvel universe or keep
Right. Which, of course, is always inevitable,
separate.
right? Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so you say page 31, eh?
Yeah, Jack Yo says, I see two artists on a book and I get hesitant, that Mana artist with Cho.
Yeah.
So maybe they couldn't even complete the first issue by himself. So Immortal She-Hulk is starting up by the writer and I believe the artist, just does the cover art, but the writer of the Immortal Hulk.
Yeah, Al Ewing.
Al Ewing. So I assume this is going to connect tightly to the Immortal Hulk story, given it's called Immortal She-Hulk and it's the same writer.
Well, I mean,
so I'm definitely getting that one.
It's tied into the whole Empire thing, which I'm not interested in at all.
I didn't even notice that.
And it's a one-shot. It
is? Oh, crap. Then maybe I'm not getting it.
And the artist is John Davis Hunt. What a fantastic artist. I don't know if anybody read Clean Room. When Vertigo was still a thing, like in Vertigo's waning days.
But I think was he on Wildstorm?
I believe so.
I think I enjoyed him there.
And I forget what he's on now, but I mean, he is doing something now, but and I forget what it is, but he's a great artist.
I will probably still get this because the description just says in the wake of Empire. So it might be just a story about She-Hulk that they, link to Empire a little bit too. And Comic Crack says he's really tempted to give Immortal Hulk a shot. You really should, Terrence. It is one that I would say best to read from the beginning. Although I did jump in on issue 17 or so, and then I backfilled as I kept reading forward.
Now, you know how all these big events are supposed to leave us with some big changes afterwards? They do hint at these big changes in these solicits, but not enough to make me run out and buy these things. So I'll just have to hear about it on podcasts. So any of you guys out there on your YouTube channels or your podcasts, I'll listen to you talk about it because I am not going to read it. You read it, so I don't have to.
Well, what was I going to say?
And I agree with Max Washington's songs. Great art on Clean Room. You are correct, sir.
And I like Sam's Tangled Web is saying, I think eventually it'll happen that Aliens Predator meet the Marvel Universe in some fashion. And I will find that tempting to read. I kind of like, even though that could potentially be a disaster, I kind of like it when they just throw something weird into the mix. And I've enjoyed Conan in Savage Avengers, much to my shock, but turned out really well.
Essentially, longtime comic readers will remember the whole Brood saga with the X-Men. That was essentially Aliens, X-Men. Yeah,
that's true.
So we've already had Wolverine deal with pretty much an alien, right? so we already know what's going to happen there. But hey, Superman met Alien, right? They had that crossover, so maybe they could do with Spider-Man or somebody else.
Yeah. So I think Chaos and Comics is getting the Immortal Hulk from the library.
Oh,
which is
good.
a good way to go. The library is a great resource for, filling in some backstory that you just want to catch up on. Who's the top? Robert Johnson, the great bluesman, asks.
Again, we love his music.
You both are looking for to do a comic book next.
Oh, that's very interesting.
I want Jim Steranko to do a comic book next, but I've been waiting for 50 years, I think.
Yeah, why do I have the feeling both of our answers would be people who are not currently doing, they're technically retired, right?
Yeah, Jack Rowe mentions Batman fighting aliens and Predator, and those turned out pretty well. They put some pretty top people on those.
Yeah. But I guess I think we owe Robert an answer, though. So you know what? Only because it's like a "what have you done for me lately" type of thing. Since we just mentioned John Davis Hunt, he's a great artist. But you know what, Mike? Is it Michael Yanin who worked with Tom King and Tim Seeley on Grayson, and he did some Batman issues. Right. A lot of the people that worked with Tom King on Batman, like him and Clay Mann and Mitch Gerrits. Those guys are all great, and they're all doing their books now over at DC. So I'd say any of those guys too.
DC has a lot of artists I like, and along with Mitch Gerrits, the guy who did the covers of Mr. Miracle has been
Nick Darrington.
Nick Darrington has been
doing.
He did some Batman, and then he did some Batman Superman. So I'm really looking forward to whatever he'll do next.
Yeah.
I'm just searching here because I saw something about Mikhail Janin on the digital. I'll just say I can't find the page, but Mikhail Janin is going to be on Wonder Woman. They're getting a new creative team on Wonder Woman.
Nice.
And unlike Marvel, they're not restarting Wonder Woman at #1 just because they have a new creative team. But it's Mariko Tamaki, who's a very well-known artist. I mean, very well-known writer who's kind of getting a name for herself. So she and Mikhail Janin are taking over Wonder Woman at 760. Oh, excuse me. So, or maybe even before 760, but I'm pretty excited for that one because Janin is one of DC's top artists. Whoops, excuse me.
Definitely.
Confusing myself on how to control this.
Well, of course, there's also always Neil Adams, who's doing Fantastic Four Antithesis on pages 34 and 35.
Yes. So I thought of that when he asked that question, because since Neil Adams is not writing it, I'm actually pretty excited to see him do a Fantastic Four comic.
And there's another one of those timeless covers.
Will be writing it.
That Silver Surfer one there, that's another one of those timeless covers, those variants that Alex Ross is doing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess this is the not final Neil Adams cover. I think I'll go for the Neil Adams cover.
Yeah. I mean, that's
Neil Adams has disappointed me a lot with his writing, but I still kind of enjoy his art. And I wonder who the colorist is, because that can make a difference. They don't list a colorist here. Because Neil Adams, someone was saying that to me recently. Yeah, not someone on YouTube, actually, I never realized. But Neil Adams has really been ruined recently by his choice of colorists. He likes ones that over embellish with the coloring over his artwork, which doesn't need extra embellishment.
And I see you have Rodney's comment on the screen there. Immortal Hulk is probably his favorite Marvel book. And speaking of which, pages 38 and 39, there's an Immortal Hulk number 0 coming
Immortal Hulk?
No, and now I pretty much I've only read 2 issues of it, haphazardly based on the covers.
Oh, that's probably not the way to go.
Yeah, no. And in fact, one of the 2 was the Breaker of Worlds issue, the number 25.
Oh, what a way to start.
Yeah, and I'm not going to say it turned me off or anything like that. Both issues that I've read are interesting and enough to make me want to read, but I think what I'm going to do is I might go the library route.
So a lot of people are happy about Mikhail Yanin.
Yeah, I agree with Gore.
The writer Gore of Wonder Woman is someone named Mariko Tamaki. and I think she's the one who wrote Being Supergirl or Being Super that starred Supergirl, and she's written some other things for DC, and I think she also has a following in I want to say young adult graphic novels, but I'm not positive if that's where she comes from.
I got to ask you, prior to the Immortal Hulk solicits on pages 38 and 39, on pages 36 and 37, they have Maestro number 2 of 5. And I'm wondering, are you interested in this?
I'm not sure.
By Peter David, Germaine Peralta, and Dale Keown. And Dale Keown was famous for working with Peter David on a long stretch of the Hulk in the 90s.
So I wish it was just Dale Keown drawing it. I wonder who Germaine Peralta. I wonder if that means that Dale Keown will do some like flashback scenes or something like that. And I don't know. I don't know if I'll get that one or not. But I'll probably will unless I get too many comics that week.
I'm a little iffy on it myself, to be honest with you. At first, when number 1 was solicited, I was excited about it. But the more I think about it, the more I'm a little tepid on it.
And so along with a lot of love for Mikel Janin, we're getting a lot of love for the Immortal Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's one of the best Marvel comics of the decade.
A lot of resolicits.
I feel like it's I mean, maybe not quite at this level, but I feel like Immortal Hulk is like Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. Then people are going to say Al Ewing's Immortal Hulk. It's where the Hulk was re-envisioned and reignited.
There are a lot of resolicits that follow the Immortal Hulk in this book. A lot of these are very familiar to me, including this Marvel Zombies Resurrection on page 44 and 45. I recall this. I mean, you can't really forget. Yeah, you can't forget that picture.
Cover, but I'm not going to get Marvel Zombies, are you?
Yeah, no, me neither. I mean, I know it's a popular franchise, and I know on the DC side, Deceased is very popular, but I'm not picking them up. Yeah,
so I think I was right that Mariko Tamaki was on that Supergirl miniseries that had Joelle Jones art on it. So she's one of those writers. It'll be good to get more quality women writers writing the female characters. So it'll be exciting to see what she does with Wonder Woman. She's definitely paired with one of the very best artists. So that's gonna be awesome.
And I'm sorry if I missed this. Did you highlight what my co-host Rodney said about Batman Odyssey?
I showed it for a second.
Okay.
It's hard to read everything.
No, that's okay because I just caught it.
I completely agree with Rodney.
Yeah, so I didn't read it.
Batman fan. I'm a huge Neil Adams fan, but Batman Odyssey was so painful.
Stick to drawing, huh?
So yeah, I'm hoping that he's letting Mark Waid do a lot of the actual plotting, and I think he has some good ideas, but they just go too far or something.
Wow.
And here Comic Crack says, wow, really, Damien? I think he's responding to the Alan Moore Swamp Thing comment. He says, that scares me a little.
I really can't wait to dive into it. It's going to keep going. I guess he has an end in sight. Who knows? And who knows what would happen to the Hulk afterwards. I remember when they reintroduced the Hulk in that weekly event in the Avengers, No Way Home or something like that. And it ran for 16 issues, beautiful Mark Brooks covers. And right there in the center of the story, the Hulk had come back after Hawkeye shot David Banner with an arrow. I forgot what was it Civil War II, or I forgot what the event was. Mm-hmm. But I think it was the first time technically that the Hulk had returned. And then that was where Al Ewing introduced the Immortal Hulk concept from what I remember.
Right.
And I didn't go and pick up on, Immortal Hulk #1 or anything like that. But now I see what I'm missing out on. And I think I'm going to do, I don't know who said it in the chat here, but somebody mentioned the library. And I think I can get it at my library. And I think I'm going to do that.
Yeah. Oh, no. Chaos and Comics mentioned at the library. Yeah, that would be a great way to catch up with it quickly. I've become obsessed with it. So I have multiple editions. Like they put out the director's cut, or not director's cut, really. They call it that, but it was just the black and white art and then some script in the back. And then I actually bought some original Joe Bennett artwork.
Ah, yes, jealous. Good,
and
nice to have.
So I just can't get enough of it. And I'm sad that they're going to end on number 50, but they're only like on number 33 now.
Oh, is that a thing? They're going to end on number 50?
Number 50.
Oh, okay. And let's face it, to have those single issues with those beautiful Alex Ross painted covers is worth having bought the floppies. But you know, I'm okay just going in to read the stories, but those covers are beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a horror story. So you're not a big horror fan, so that
and I think that's why I didn't jump in right away.
Right.
Yeah. So what else do you have?
Let's see. So you just noted Fantastic Four, which is one of the things I'm excited about. They've resolicited Juggernaut, which I'm excited about because he's one of my favorite villains. And he's being drawn by Ron Garney, who we talked about. What artist would you like? I want to see more Ron Garney. I've been loving the stuff he's done in the last year or two. He did a short Conan run and a one-shot of Ben Grimm. That was really excellent. I wanted to go back to Sam saying, I am a Marvel zombie, so I will get that. Sam is my favorite Marvel zombie. And unfortunately, Terrence has left us. But I think that's about it. There's some trades that I marked.
I'm surprised, being the historian that you are, that you at least didn't mention on page 46 the tribute to Len Wein and Dave Cockrum, I guess a republishing of Giant Size X-Men #1, the 45th anniversary.
With the new cover on it.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that it exists, you know.
It must be full of. It lists an enormous number of artists, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there.
It looks like they recreate the story. Maybe each artist gets a page.
Oh, they recreate it visually. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm interested in that. I just glossed right past it. I just thought it was, yet another cash-in kind of thing. And I already have, I don't have an original issue of that, but I have it in multiple reprints.
Sure.
So I didn't really.
Yeah. And what are they asking for it? $5.99? Not so bad if you get all that original art.
Right. And that was a giant size comic in its day. So
yes,
if you create it, that'll be a lot of pages.
Before we get to those trades, just on the Jason Page, Strange Academy #3. This is a resolicit also from pre-pandemic, but when this was originally announced, when #1 came out, I thought I might be interested in it. But the thing is, it looks like they threw every young version of a magic character that Marvel has. Like it seems like this book has so many characters that I didn't want to deal with it, and it turned me off. And I am a little curious as to how it is, but it just seemed like, my gosh, how many people do you need on this team?
Harry Potter pattern.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the Harry Potter books, but I'm sick of it being applied to everything. DC tried that a few years ago. They had their own Magic Academy. I do like Scotty Young's writing, so maybe that's something I'll read in trade someday. I just want to point out a lot of people are agreeing with me about Ron Garney.
Oh, great.
Jack loves his resurgence. Chris at Chaos and Comics likes and wants to get the Juggernaut because of that. Max agrees the Grimm one-shot was great, and Sam agrees. And Jack, yes, I got that black and white Garney Conan, and I loved it. Normally, I feel ripped off buying something black and white. But
I am only holding this up because these Alex Ross variants kind of have a Kirby-esque look to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you're a big Kirby fan, so I'm only doing that for your behalf.
Thank you. You're trying to make me spend more money, I guess.
No, not really.
I will resist.
No.
I'm going to go for the Neil Adams cover. I like the. Oh, those are from the Dan Slott series. Which
yes, just the regular stuff. Mm-hmm.
But maybe I should go back to that. But speaking of Kirby, I was excited to see they're going to do an omnibus. Whoops, I have to put myself back on this.
Yeah, where'd you go? There you are.
They're going to do an omnibus of the Eternals.
Yes.
Or not just an omnibus, sorry. One of those monster size books. The ones that are bigger than artist editions.
They're like a TARDIS. They're bigger on the inside.
They're big on the outside too, but they are enormous. And I've gotten a few of those already, and I'm super excited to get the Eternals that way.
Cool.
And I don't know if I'll get it or not, but I'm kind of excited to get a Moon Knight omnibus, so I might go for that.
I do have to say, I was in love with Moon Knight back in those days.
And even though it has a David Finch cover and he was a later Moon Knight artist, this is the Doug Moench, Bill Mantlo era of Moon Knight with Don Perlin, Keith Geffen, Mike Zeck, Jim Mooney, Bill Sienkiewicz, Herb Trimp, and others doing on the art. So I will probably end up getting that omnibus also.
Yeah, with material from the magazines when he was in Hulk magazine.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Did he start there or?
No, I think he was in Werewolf by Night.
Werewolf by Night. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I don't think I've ever read the Hulk magazine stuff. But definitely had that whole series, the original Moon Knight series, and I probably had, whenever he appeared in the Team Up magazines, I sure enough got them because I always got the Team Up magazines. But yeah, loved Moon Knight from that incarnation on.
I'm not sure if Sam, when he says Strange Academy is interesting, means it's interesting or he means he likes it. I'm not sure. There's a little Dormammu. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but that's exactly what it is. It's almost like how Justice Society had the legacy. Some people were picking up the mantle from some of the older heroes, but at least there was a mix between old and new. Now this one just seems to have the younger version of every single magical character in the Marvel universe, except maybe a mini Doctor Strange.
Jack says the Eternals is a must buy, so he's thinking like me. And Gore asks, when is the Moon Knight omnibus coming out? And actually, that's a good question because it's not coming out in September the way most things here are. It says it's coming out in January of 2000.
Oh, wow, is it that far ahead?
2021. So I'm not sure why they're advertising it already.
You can't even get it for somebody for Christmas.
And the same with the Eternals. So I don't know what's going on here. I guess they've pushed these things back, but they're putting them in the catalog anyway.
Well, the Eternals I can see why, because the Eternals movie probably won't come out till 2021.
Probably not, yeah.
Moon Knight, I don't know what the reasoning would be.
Spider-Man, Kraven's Last Hunt, Marvel Select hardcover. But that might also be an interesting thing, is coming out January 2001 or 2021 also. So I guess a lot of these are not coming out in September.
And so also,
I'm glad you asked, Gore, because I was not looking close.
And in conjunction with the Eternals Omnibus, you have the poster book coming out in January also.
I'm not sure what I would have to thumb through the poster book to know if I want to get it, and I'm not sure if I have that opportunity.
And then on the other side, Mark Brooks, to talk about an artist, I don't know if Mark Brooks could do a whole sequential book, but his covers are amazing.
Yeah, so that might make a nice coffee table book.
Something like that is, I guess, in September. Well, this looks like a resolicit also, actually.
Do you follow the cover artists, the ones who aren't actually interior artists who just seem to specialize in covers? And
you mean like the people who are more like a variant cover type of artist?
A lot of them are variant covers, or some of them aren't variant cover people, but they still only do covers. And I know a lot of people are really into that now. It's not something I've paid real close attention to.
No, I mean, I'm aware of it.
So I didn't know who Mark Brooks was, actually.
I mean,
very cool.
He has a definitive style, and in fact, I bought the hardcover trade of the Hoxpox that you and Matt talked about on your Never Stay Dead podcast. And I was disappointed that I couldn't get the Mark Brooks. From the way it was solicited, I thought it was going to be a Mark Brooks wraparound cover of pretty much all the X-Men, just kind of, it was Professor X and Mora sitting on a park bench, and they were surrounded by all the mutants. That was the cover I wanted, and I think I got just like the normal cover. And if I was going to get the book, I was like, well, I'd like to get the Mark Brooks cover. But yeah. But no, I don't fall. It's not like it makes me buy a book, or, I appreciate the artwork, but I'm not going to buy a book because of it, or I'm not going to buy two copies, two different covers of the same book. I'm not that consumer.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, me either.
Mhm.
Gore asks, is the Fourth World Omnibus that came out this week a reprint of the one from a few years ago? I think a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, there was a Fourth World Omnibus that had every single Kirby Fourth World. It was like 1,200 pages. This now is an absolute edition, so it will be a little bigger, and it's coming out in 2 volumes. And so I, in my Jack Kirby addiction, ordered volume 1 this week from In Stock Trades. So I'll show it in a video soon when it comes in. And I'm a little dubious because sometimes the absolutes have bad binding and sometimes they're really great. But
what makes them absolutes? Do they throw in a lot of extras? I've never bought one.
They are much more expensive even than the omnibuses.
Yeah, but what makes them more expensive? I mean, is there extra
They're a little
material?
larger. Sometimes there's extra material.
But not a guarantee.
No. And I think they're supposed to be on better paper and presumably better binding, but the binding isn't always better. So like I got the Absolute Authority volumes and the binding was not that great on them.
Yeah.
And
what are those, like 1,000 pages or something, 900 pages?
There were 2 volumes. I don't think they were that long. I can't say off the top of my head. I think they were about 500 pages each or 600 pages each.
I wonder if there's a sweet spot when it comes to binding, like once you get past a certain threshold of page count, that the binding becomes compromised in some way. I don't know.
I think it's just in their production if they choose to buy the more expensive binding or not. So, because literally sometimes it's glued binding. It was glued binding on the Authority, and that you want stitched binding. And then I think there are levels of quality of stitched binding too.
You know, it's interesting we're talking about this because very recently, before the pandemic started and everything came to a screeching halt, I got Starship Down #1 from Dark Horse. And this is the first time in I don't know how many decades that I was reading a comic and the center page where the staple was, the staple had not apparently gone all the way through. And the center page with those 4 pages came out. Like as I was thumbing through it and I got to that page, all of a sudden it came out in my hand as I turned the page. I said, wait, what I did? I don't think, I'm not sure if that's ever happened to me before. Maybe on a secondhand book that I bought, but I don't think on a bought from the comic book store. And it's not the comic book store's fault. It had to be something with the publishing or whatever. Yeah.
So Sam says he does like Strange Academy, so that's good to know. I might check it out sometime.
Okay.
In some non-floppy form, even though my shirt says floppies forever. I get things in all kinds of formats. But I do love floppies. Chaos in Comics is now up to $471 on his picks from the catalog. It's
a good thing they don't put that number that I always used to quote when I used to do this with Eric of Longbox Review, how much the whole book would cost you. I don't see those figures in here anymore. So I think that would make Chaos feel better. You know, if you're only spending $400, it's a very small percentage of the book, you know.
Potentially could spend.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's all a matter of percentages, you know.
Rodney owns Absolute Kingdom Come.
Yes, he is a big fan of Kingdom Come. That's right.
That's a beautiful comic. I can't remember what the binding is like on that particular one. Oops. And Chaos in Comics says it's always scary to spend that money because some binding is horrible. Yeah, and like a lot of people, I guess, have had trouble with the binding on the Absolute Swamp Thing.
Oh, really?
They've had the binding separate on them. Mine so far has held together. But that was an expensive book. I think it was $150 or something. You know, if I paid cover price.
I saw a recent picture posted on Twitter from Jack Kirby's grandson of Jack Kirby holding up a bound copy of, I forgot if it was his New Gods books, you know, where he took the individual comics themselves and bound them. I wonder, I've never heard anybody complain about that process. I wonder however they do that. Maybe that's how they should do omnibuses and all these absolute editions.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think it's literally a matter of you go to a printer and you say, I want this kind of binding, or I want to save a little money. Let's do the glued binding.
Oh, I see.
Or let's use these cheaper materials. So it might be, I mean, I'm just guessing, a difference of an extra $1 per copy or something.
Your last guest, Scott Edelman, he spoke about how that was a very popular thing for the creators to do back when he was part of the Marvel bullpen. On one of his episodes, he mentioned
there are people out there. I've seen people do YouTube videos on it and followed their links. There are a few printers around the country who specialize in that. If you have, if you want to get all of your Warlord by Mike Grell bound, because there's never going to be an omnibus of it,
right?
You can send them all your comics, and they will bind it for you in a very nice edition, even with a leather cover if you want.
Funny how you chose Warlord. I used to love Warlord. That was a great book.
Well, I am slowly collecting all of Warlord, or at least all of the Mike Grell part of Warlord.
Yeah, and I mean, they're really not expensive, right?
They're mostly 50-cent books, except for number 1.
It's like a forgotten. I mean, only people from our demographic would even care. I mean, anybody a generation behind us wouldn't even know what it was.
I'm not sure what my Starship Down was.
Oh, that was when I mentioned that my comic had the page that came out. That was Starship Down.
Oh, that was Starship Down. Oh,
yeah. So Chaos is saying that his copy was A-okay.
So it might have been
about
just
that.
a few copies that got misstapled or something.
Yeah.
There are, every once in a while, someone finds their copy of a certain comic has 2 covers, like they accidentally stapled in 2 copies of the cover page.
Never heard of that. Interesting.
Well, let's take a peek into the main previews book, which
Kristen, my co-host Kristen, her husband was on the show for the past 2 weeks. Rodney was off, so he filled in, and he's from the comic book store, and he was giving us a little behind the scenes, a little inside baseball on episodes 60 and 61. And one of the things he said that I didn't know, which probably is common knowledge to probably all your commenters here, that sometimes they'll get in their box in a shipment, the colors on a cover will be off, they'll be flipped. The way he described it, and I may be a little off here, but basically somebody's costume that should be blue and red, whatever is blue is supposed to be blue is actually red, and vice versa.
So maybe they use the wrong printing plates and
but
all the red on the blue printing plate and vice versa.
But he made it sound like it's done on purpose, and that it's like a hidden variant.
Oh, okay, I see.
And it's not like it was originally solicited. It's not like the retailers had a way to order it without having it solicited in previews. It just happens. And then those apparently become very desirable. And I don't know if that's because they're almost like a faux mistake, almost like the stamp that's upside down or something that's misprinted by accident. From the way he made it sounds like it's done on purpose, but they're still very desirable.
So there are other Warlord fans out there, both Gore Vidal and
John Sable, yes, and of course Green Arrow, of course, yeah.
Max Washington also likes Warlord.
Star Slayer. Oh, I loved Star Slayer, man, that was awesome.
People who are old enough and have good taste know about these books. Yeah, so I think someday I will probably try to get some of my Warlords bound.
I gotta dig out the Star Slayers, man. Those were awesome. Hey, before we dig deep into the book, do you read the beginning of the book, or you just dive in when you go in?
I just skip past it.
Okay, well, they interviewed.
I don't have enough time.
Well, in their Indie Edge, they interviewed W. Maxwell Prince, the guy who writes Ice Cream Man. Yeah. So there's another book. Gosh, I always do this wrong. I'll get used to this by the time this is over, I guess. And that's what he looks like. If you didn't know, 11. So here's the deal. Like I was talking about Immortal Hulk, I haven't read it. I didn't hop on right away. I didn't hop on Ice Cream Man right away. I was going to, but I'm trying to watch what I spend is what it is. I'm getting frugal in my old age.
That's always a mistake.
Yeah, it is a mistake, but
money's meant to be spent.
But I think this is something that I'm going to catch up on via my library also, Ice Cream Man.
Well, Ice Cream Man is most months my number one book.
I actually have a T-shirt, a very recent T-shirt solicit caught my eye. I bought it. It's ready for Halloween. Actually, I guess I should be wearing it now. It's almost like the mood of the pandemic, right? I should be wearing it. But I definitely, so Immortal Hulk and Ice Cream Man I want to catch up on. And it's weird. There are 2 horror books. and I'm not really a horror fan. Yeah.
Yeah, but it seems like, people talk about, well, maybe now is the golden age of indie comics. Feels like now is a golden age of horror comics. There's a lot of good horror comics out there. Maxwell looks a little tougher than someone whose name is W. Maxwell in my mind. Right, I didn't say his full name properly. I can't even see his name here. W. Maxwell Prince. Yeah, that doesn't seem like a macho man kind of. But at least in this picture, he has more of a tough guy look. So Chaos says Gore duped him into buying 160 of Grell's Green Arrow. I can guess that Mike Grell may not be a Chaos and Comics type of writer. King of Nowhere. I only read the first issue, and I think the third issue just came out. I need to get that soon.
Also, another book written by him.
Well.
And here's in this other book by him, 1 Week at the Library. I remember oh goodness, I'll get this eventually.
Is that an older book of his?
Yeah, I remember seeing it on the shelf at Comic Logic, and I didn't pick it up, but I had thumbed through it and it looked really good. I didn't pick it up, and I think now if Ice Cream Man is as good as all of you folks say it is, I may have to pick this up at Comic Logic. 1 Week in the Library. I remember thumbing through it on the shelf, and I was like, again, I'm trying to be frugal.
Yeah,
you know what I was doing? I'm saving for vacations that I keep canceling now that we have a pandemic. So maybe I should buy a book or two.
Yeah, there you go. You deserve a treat.
Yeah.
Get Connie a treat and get yourself a treat. That way.
That's right.
So the first one I marked in here was on page 42. Do you have anything before there?
Well, you know what? No. Before page 42. No, the only reason I marked things off is because I thought your viewers might be interested. But to be honest with you, let's focus on the things we're interested in, I guess, because then we'll be here till like 3 in the morning Eastern, and we can't do that.
Whatever piques your fancy.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be one you're getting, but if you wanted to.
Sure. But 42, yeah, let's do that.
So this is one called Inkblot. And when I read the description out loud to my daughter, she got super excited. So we're definitely getting this one.
Okay, I mean, the cover gets me because there's a cat on it, but why don't you describe to the viewers what Inkblot #1 is, because I did have that one written down.
A new ongoing series follows a powerful sorceress attempting to correct her greatest mistake, the creation of a magical cat who can travel through time, space, and reality. The cat threatens to unravel the fabric of the universe, doesn't care, and just won't listen. So for people who love the capriciousness of cats, I think this will be an enjoyable one.
Yeah. That might be the only reason I get it.
The art looks really nice. It looks like the perfect book to read along with my daughter. So maybe she and I will have a review of it up someday.
Oh, that'd be good. Quacking Duck.
Quacking Duck, yes.
So
she loved ducks when she was 4 and is now stuck with that name on YouTube.
Once you pick that name on YouTube and on podcasting, you're stuck with it, right? Mm-hmm.
Now, there is another one I did not mark, and I won't get because I don't want to have to discuss the title with my daughter hanging around the house. It's called Dracula Mofo. It might be great, but I just don't feel like having that conversation.
And I find it interesting. It's drawn by Erica Henderson. She's famous for the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, right?
Yes, one of my daughter's favorite comics. Also.
So if she was going to follow Erica Henderson, this is not the book for her to move over to.
Well, and in fact, after Erica left Squirrel Girl, she did what was it called? A comic book about assassins. I think it was called Assassination.
Yes, she did. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And one of the characters in that was called...
they all had funny names.
And my daughter found my comics and I had to talk to her about that.
Oh, boy.
I just don't enjoy having these conversations.
And I take it you're going to go for this.
Oh, definitely.
Okay. So this was were these online, I guess, during the quarantine?
Yes. And I did not buy them online. I was feeling a little cheap because they were like $2 for 4 pages or something.
Oh, is that how it worked?
Yeah. It was for charity, but I just have trouble. Does it say how many pages? It's going to be 56 pages for $5 or $6, so that'll be better.
And 50% of creator profits will go to Comic Book United to help stores get back on their feet because comic shops are sweet.
Now, did your friends who own the comic shop, have they mentioned if they got any money from any of these charities?
No, I didn't ask Kristen. I didn't want to get too much into their business in that respect. Although I don't know if anybody took advantage of TKO Studios thing that they were doing during the quarantine.
Yeah.
Where you could support your local comic book store by ordering books from them, and they were going to donate 50% of the price over to your comic book store of your choice. And Comic Logic was the recipient of a few shekels from a couple of books that I bought.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I bought some from TKO and listed my shop, Cloud9.
Yeah.
I don't even know if he knows what TKO is, though.
Oh, really? Yeah.
TKO is not part of it's not in Diamond or any other distributor.
True. And I had told Kristen the first order I did, and then when TKO said we're suspending the program, whatever date it was, I said, you know what? The thing that made me pull the trigger on what I bought in the first place was that they were going to donate, and I said, there's another book I want to get. Let me get it. They'll donate to the store, and that'll be good. Every couple of bucks helps. So.
And I think during that program, they were making shipping free, and normally they charge for shipping.
Mm-hmm.
So buying their comics at full price plus paying shipping, I'm so used to getting discounts on comics that.
And that is why I had not gone forward with any of the purchases in the past, but this was kind of like an incentive to do so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right, what's your next one?
My next one is on page 55. I think it's still in the image section.
Sure.
I'm very excited for the coming of the final deluxe hardback copy of East of West, so I can finally read the whole series. I've been collecting the hardbacks.
Okay, so here we go. And
the floppies.
The people who are chatting probably can chime in whether they agree or disagree, but these series that are finite, and I'm not going to mention the one that shall not be named because you'll have to whip out an EpiPen for gore. But all these, and that one is actually long anyway, but I mean, some of these that go 50, 60 issues, whatever, and whether you get all of the individual issues, you get the trades that collect 6 or 5 at a time, or you get these big hardcovers that do 10 at a time, whatever it is, 10, 12. Do you make a habit out of waiting? Or are you just waiting on this one in particular because it's so intricate, the plot is so intricate, you figure, what was the point of reading it month to month and having a break because I'm not going to remember, I'm not going to understand? I mean, what is making you wait on this one?
My answer is I bought the first 3 issues of East of West,
mm-hmm.
and the story was not clear at all by that point.
I agree.
But, my answer is now, and that was part of my process. Now I've decided that there are certain writers who I know I will enjoy more if I wait for the collection.
And Jonathan Hickman is definitely one of them.
Yes. So all of my Jonathan Hickman is now trade waiting.
Yes. Okay. I understand that. In fact, it was Rich, my co-host Kristen's husband, who got me interested in getting the first trade of East of West in the first place. And I read the first trade, and I was like, I don't even know what I just read. So, I mean, he was raving about it at the time. So this is one of those things that maybe now that it's all done, you go collect it, since it's, as like a postmortem, you go collect it and you read it or get it at your library or whatever.
Yeah. So I got the really nice hardbacks. They're beautiful, but I held off on buying them until this one. Now that I know this one's coming out. Oh, it says advanced solicit. So when is it actually coming out? In November.
Oh, okay.
So maybe when I get to September, I'll start reading those giant volumes.
Well, I see Jack
waiting a long time for that. It's taken him the first 2 came out pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, I see Jack. Loved it. Yeah.
And a lot of people, as it was coming out serially, said, well, this is getting better and better and better. Mm-hmm. So I was getting pretty excited.
Chaos, Gore, they all seem to love it. So,
but Gore's getting his lawyers out because someone's talking about
it shall not be named.
I guess Chaos has read part of it. Gore approves.
There are 2 titles that I did exactly what you just described. and I unfortunately have not read them yet. I have done that for Black Science, and I have done.
There's another author that I now wait on all of his stuff for trade.
And I really wasn't even going to deal with Black Science, but a coworker of mine, a coworker who I've known for a long time, he suggested it to me, and it shocked me because I didn't know that he even read comics. First, when he told me he was into sci-fi, I was shocked, and then when he told me he read comics, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. You've known that I'm a heavy comic book fanatic, and you never shared the subject with me? What? So anyway, he sold it on me, but it was already, about halfway done. So I figured I would do the waiting, and I've done that. So I'm just going to dive into it. And the other one is Wayward by Jim Zub. And I've got those just waiting to be done. And you'd figure a pandemic would be the time to do it, but I have been one of the lucky ones that have been able to work during this whole pandemic. So
right,
it's been business as
free time.
Yeah, it's been business as usual. So I'm waiting for a snowstorm. But then again, telework prevents a snow day from being a true snow day.
Well, since your vacation plans are probably being canceled, will you just take time off from work and stay at home, or will you just keep working and save the vacation time?
I'm going to probably save the vacation time, unless maybe I take a few days off to do some stuff around the house or something. But they're not all canceled yet. All the vacations are not canceled yet. I've already canceled one big one that was supposed to be in the spring. Later in the year, supposed to be one, but I don't know.
You could say, "Oh, I'm going to take 2 days off for Wayward this week."
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I'll
put that in my out of office. I am out of office reading Wayward by Jim Zub. If you want to read it or listen to Meanwhile the podcast, here's a link for you. Otherwise, I'll be back in the office on whatever date.
I read about half of Wayward digitally and loved it. I decided, I should go buy those volumes, and then I forgot to. So I better look and see if they're still in print.
Well, I like Jim Zub. I follow him on Twitter, and he had gone to Japan. And he's gone more than once, but like the first time that I remember him tweeting about it, it might have been his first time going, because he was really putting a lot of stuff out there when it came to entertainment and food and just things that he would see walking around the streets that are normal if you live in Japan, whatever part of Japan he was in. But for us, it's like, it's a totally foreign concept to see whatever while you're walking down the city street. So it was very interesting to follow him while he was taking this journey. And Wayward followed. It came out after, a little bit after. I guess he was doing research or whatever, and then right. Wayward might have been the result.
And the artist lives full time in Japan.
Oh, does he?
Yes.
Oh, I thought he went. He's not in Canada anymore.
Jim Zub is from Canada, right?
Yeah.
But the artist on Wayward.
Oh, the artist. I'm sorry. I thought you meant Jim Zub.
The artist on Wayward, I forgot his name, lives full time in Japan. I think he may have a Japanese wife.
And that might be another reason why he went, to maybe meet this person and collaborate.
Right. So there's a lot of real Japan. So Pocan Joe has joined us.
Hey.
He has a cool channel with reviews, and been a while since most people have seen him.
Chaos did the same thing for Wicked and Divine.
Yes, Chaos has been, and I read a few of those in singles and didn't get it. So I don't know, maybe I should try that one from the library.
Yeah, maybe that's a third one I have to add to my list.
The library is my library here anyway gets most things eventually. So it's a great way to sample things you're not sure about.
I have found that the library, at least my local library, for hard copies, I may be starting to go digital with library stuff just because I'm a tactile person when it comes to my reading materials. I'm a little nervous about these shared books now with what's going on. So as much as they say they may sterilize stuff, I may go digital with library things. Yeah. And my library is good at, the one-off type books, like say a historical graphic novel or a slice of life graphic novel. That's just one part. That's it. You have to read volume after volume after volume. And that's where I got my appreciation for these types of graphic novels.
I've wondered about Uber by Kieran Gillen. I don't hear much about that. I guess I should try that from the library. Maybe. I hadn't thought about I haven't used the library since the quarantine happened, but I used to use it.
Is it open?
They just recently reopened for just book pickup.
Same here. Same
So I
here.
guess I could just, sanitize the cover myself, I suppose. But
My library
I have so much to read, and
prior to opening to the public, what my library was doing, I guess, is a soft roll in to opening to the public. They would have these bins outside where you would return books. So I guess people who had taken out books prior to the pandemic could return their books in these bins. And we had some books that we were going to return. So they sent out an email about what their policy was. You drop these books off into these bins. Supposedly, I think they stayed outside for 72 hours, which, I don't understand that part. Then they would bring them in and sterilize them, however they're doing it, and then put them back on the shelf. So I'm not quite sure how all that was working out. But now mine is actually open to the public and available for curbside pickup.
Yeah, I don't think those germs would last long on a book. It's apparently metal and plastic that they last on the most. But
well, let's face it. I mean, even without a pandemic, right? Shared books in a library, if you were like Howie Mandel level, yeah,
go to the library.
Yeah. So I mean, germaphobes are not using a library anyway, at least the hard copies at a library. So you've already have a certain threshold for germs, I guess, or subconsciously you don't even care. You don't care about it, but now you're thinking about it because we've all been forced to be quarantined, and you're forced to think about it for the past 3 or 4 months. So
yeah,
it's still front of mind. So I think it'll be digital as far as the library is concerned for me for a while.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a time where I'm trying to catch up on some of my reading, but yeah, my daughter being stuck at home has kind of, we read what we can read together. We read a lot of, we've been catching up on Gru like crazy.
Well, you're going to catch up on something together. That's one of the things to do.
For you in the catalog.
Let's see. Well, actually, it was more. Well, if we're still going to stick to Image, it was more along the lines of what I thought that maybe your viewers would be interested in. Not necessarily anything I'm interested in, except for page 61 and page 76.
Adventure Man?
Yes, because pre-pandemic, I was interested in picking that up, and I think I still am. So I'm not going to wait for a trade on that. I'll get the singles on that. So Adventure Man on page 61.
I think I got the first issue, but haven't read it yet.
Yeah, so let's see if I can figure this out. There we go. Matt Fraction, Terry Dodson, Rachel Dodson, Clayton Cowles.
And is it
issue number 4?
One or several of the creators that attracts you, or the concept, or a little of both?
It was, probably, when I read previews, I do read every, I know it sounds crazy, but I do read every solicit, even for the smaller publishers.
Everyone, wow.
Everyone. And
including the manga?
Oh, yeah. Well, no, not the manga. Well, I skim the manga.
The manga.
And I do read more about the manga than you'd think I read. But it was the concept plus the artwork of on the cover of issue number 1. But it was the I mean, I wasn't going to buy it based on the cover, but it was the concept that got me.
It's funny. I hesitated, but then I went ahead and pulled the trigger on it. But for some reason, I found as time has gone by, I don't like the Dodson's art. It's almost too perfect. That makes sense.
I can see. I mean, I know where you're coming from on that.
But I know a lot of people love their art, and I used to love their art, but I just sort of changed my mind.
Usually on my show, I say I have to take my hypocrisy pills because I say something and then I contradict myself 2 seconds later. So I'm about to contradict myself. So I've got my pills right over here.
Okay.
And I know I just said that I'm not going to buy a book based on a cover. However, I will admit, since Matt Fraction is writing Adventure Man, I do have to admit the reason I got into Sex Criminals was because of the Chip Zdarsky cover on number 1.
I'm trying to
now it could have also been the title was tantalizing enough, but there was something about the cover that got me, made me pick up the book, thumb through it, and I'm like, you know what the heck? And I got hooked, and sure enough, I was buying them ever since.
Oh, so you stuck through the whole series?
Oh yeah. Now I will admit their breaks kind of killed me and killed the momentum of it. So it is ending now soon. I think the one in here it's solicited is the last 69. One.
I think they just had to go to that number.
Yeah, they did jump ahead. I mean, really, technically, I think it's 30 or 31 or whatever. But I'm going to reread it all. But I did enjoy reading it monthly when it was coming out in some sort of steady manner because I did like the back matter. The letters page was always a lot of fun to read. if I do a reread now, I don't think I'm going to stick. I might read the letters pages later, like the ones I haven't read before. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm just strictly going to read the story, finish it, and then if I want to, I'll go back and I'll read those letters pages. They were a lot of fun to read. So.
Yeah. That one was one that I read 6 issues of, the first story arc, and I thought, that was cool. I've had enough. I'll go read something else.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's one of those things that seems like, does this really need to carry on? And the bit that I read after the first 6 issues was okay, but you're right. It's like that core concept. It's like a TV show that goes to the 12th season when it really should have stopped at 8 or 9, you know? Yeah.
Well, we get some thumbs up on Adventure Man. Pocan Joe said it was okay. They did a switcheroo, so that'll be interesting for me to see when I read it. Gore Vidal says the Dodsons would be at home doing a Stepford Wives comic.
Oh my God, that would be perfect.
That's kind of, what they're like.
Who's got that license? It's got to be a Dynamite license. That sounds like a Dynamite license.
Yes, Dynamite can't afford the Dodsons. And Chaos and Comics thought Adventure Man was so.
All right, well, since we do have a live audience here, has anybody read A Man Among Ye? Did #1 come out before the pandemic?
What publisher is that?
That's Image on page 71 by Stephanie Phillips and Craig Cermak. It's female pirates.
Huh. I totally did not notice that one.
I was interested in purchasing this when I saw #1 solicited, but my frugality prevented me from doing so.
Right. And now you're rethinking that?
No, well, I don't know. This is the type of book, a lot of podcasts I listen to, and I do listen to a lot of podcasts, seem to focus on books by the big two, and we'll call this the third for the big three. But when they get to Image, I don't hear them talking about books like this. Right. They'll talk about the books that are at the beginning of the solicits, and then maybe something like Sex Criminals or East of West because it's been around a while.
Right.
But some of these other books I don't hear them talk about, so I really have no feedback.
Well, the people doing A Man Among Ye are not superstars of comics, so
right. Although Chaos read it and says it was fun and he really liked it, so maybe that's I'll take Chaos's.
Well, you should subscribe to Chaos and Comics channel because he covers a much deeper range of comics than most people do. He's not your just big two kind of guy.
All right, so I'll make my admission here. I did it the last time I was on your show, so this is only my second live stream. So just to introduce myself to your viewers, if they haven't listened to my show, I'm more of a podcast person than a YouTube participant, only because I listen at work, and the audio part is what gets me. So I know I could just listen to a YouTube show like all of yours, but I would be distracted. And sometimes, like, Damien will hold up a cover, and I would be tempted to see it. And some of you guys do the same. So unfortunately, while I am subscribed to Chaos of Comics, I haven't watched many. And a lot of you, I'm subscribed to your channels. But unfortunately, I don't participate as much in YouTube as I do in the podcast realm. So I apologize for that, but I do subscribe to a lot of your channels. And Chaos, you're one of them. And I have seen a few of your shows, and Damien is correct. I do notice that you do go off the beaten path, which I enjoy.
Yeah, and Chaos, I think you could listen to without having to see anything. But there's so many channels out there, it does get hard to filter through.
Right. Well, I mean, the same thing happens with podcasts. So it just doesn't,
You have focused on podcasts, so you probably know which podcasts to go to, and you're still learning on YouTube.
Well, I mean, Rodney, listen to my show this weekend. Rodney introduces me to at least one new one, and a YouTube channel that he had mentioned before that I didn't bother subscribing to, that I'm going to eventually. But he does mention a podcast, and I gave it a shot, and now I'm subscribed. So, like, it gets me through the workday. What can I tell you?
Yeah. I've had many a job like that where I need the podcasts or something. In the pre-podcast days, I would be listening to Howard Stern, just to get through a day. But I like the podcast better, actually.
I'm going to make a recommendation before we move on.
Several people are recommending the pirate book.
Oh, good. Yeah, see, Pocan did that too.
Both, Chris at Chaos and Pocan Joe. And I guess Chris has done podcasts. So we'll have to look for him in the Podioverse.
And I agree with Pocan Joe about season 8 of Friends. I mean, the 8 seasons of Friends, and anything beyond that was, I agree with you 100%. But I'm going to make a suggestion, non-comic related. I know we lost Carl Reiner this week. If anybody's interested, go check out Clear and Vivid, hosted by Alan Alda. Earlier this year, he had Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks on, and it was a great listen. If you want to go seek that out on that show, and plus, actually, a couple of weeks later, he had on Mike Farrell and Loretta Swit, his MASH partners, on the show. So if you're interested in any of that stuff, check that out. Not a sponsor, just want to let you know.
And Rodney mentions Cartoonist Kayfabe.
Yes, that is one of the shows that you'll hear him mention on Saturday.
An amazing show. I mean, I don't listen. They put out a lot. I don't listen to everything they put out, but but that's incredible stuff. Kind of leaves all the rest of us in the dust, I'm afraid, when it comes to comic book shows. But,
well, they're professionals.
Although other professionals have tried YouTube channels and not done so well, but Cartoonist Kayfabe is pretty amazing.
All right. On page 76, Savage Dragon still going strong. Now, I've never read a Savage. Well, actually, that's a lie. I've read a few Savage Dragon here and there over time. So as it's 252. I like this homage to the Sunday Funnies.
Yes, that's going to be a cool issue.
That's what the whole issue is. So I may buy it just based on that. I'm a fan of these send-ups. And if I was a good podcaster / YouTuber, I would have the name of the or brought down a copy of this great artist that does these fantastic.
We got two Baba Booies in the house. Did we lose you? Either I'm frozen or you're frozen. So
I'm back.
Oh, you're back. Okay.
So, you know what? I shouldn't even mention. Forget what I was saying because I didn't bring down the books by this artist. There are plenty of people who do these types of things where they'll take comic strips and they'll put the comic strip. They'll draw people in the news today in the form of a famous comic strip, and they'll give their own political satire, but it'll be in the form of Peanuts, or it'll be in the form of Doonesbury or Hagar the Horrible or whatever. And I love those kind of things. So the Savage Dragon number 252 is going to be pretty interesting for me.
Well, I've been reading Savage Dragon for about 30 issues now, and the more I read it, the more I appreciate it. It's actually a very cool comic. I didn't really like it a whole lot back in the early Image days, but I jumped on it because of a fellow YouTuber named Jared Osborne, and found he was right, and I probably will keep sticking with it for many more years.
Well, I appreciate what Chaos says up there about my job as a hitman going faster when I'm listening to podcasts. So yes,
it's amazing
Chaos.
You can do your job as a hitman from home without leaving.
Well, and what's funny is, this mask, for some reason, nobody ever identifies me. I don't understand. My ninja skills, I get out there, I do my thing, and I'm listening to, Longbox Review or something. I don't know.
And people probably think you were Stan Lee or something. Those who don't know any better. Oh, it said Marvel on it. Must have been Stan Lee. So there's some reason on Saturday we're going to have to listen to Meanwhile at the podcast.
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess I teased the podcast that Rodney mentioned. So, yes.
And I guess I'm not the only one who's listened to Howard Stern in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Plenty of Baba Booies came through. Well, I am curious about something that's coming out from Dark Horse. I think it's a graphic novel. It's called Will Destroy the Galaxy for Cash.
Ah, yes.
Is that my phone or yours? Oh, that's my phone.
Uh-oh.
I'm just going to ignore it.
Is that the 10th caller? Were we giving away a prize? I didn't realize that. What's going on here?
So it says,
what page is that? 99.
It's page 99. Apparently it's a sequel to We'll Save the Galaxy for Food. So I may have to look for that. Maybe I can get it on Hoopla or something. With the age of heroic star pilots and galactic villains completely killed by quantum teleportation, the ex-star pilot, currently named Dashford Pierce, is struggling to find his identity in a changing universe. So it kind of sounds up my alley, but of course it would depend a lot on what the art's like, and the art may not may not be like that cover, I suppose.
Right.
Definitely going to look into that. I'd never heard of the previous book, the Save the Galaxy for Food.
I remember the creator's name. I mean, with a name like that, Yahtzee Crawshaw, you can't really forget that. So,
just a writer.
Yeah.
Could this not be maybe this is a novel and not a comic?
I don't know. No, it says black and white.
It says black and white, 22 pages, but that could be black and white text, I suppose. There's no
I guess.
Looks like Gore's reading Savage Dragon 2. And it was Jared who convinced you.
Anybody excited about the Bill and Ted movie coming out? Because they've got Bill and Ted Are Doomed on page. What page is that? 88.
Can we go back to a middle-aged Bill and Ted? Well, we'll see. But.
I'm looking forward to it. Actually, I got to say, I don't watch Orville. Not because I don't want to. I kind of fell off of it just because of timing. But look at I know some people say they don't like photorealistic art, and I wouldn't call this photorealistic, but the cartooning here, you can tell that's supposed to be
right
characters that they are. I love that because even back when Marvel had the original license for Star Wars, it was hit or miss sometimes, but the likenesses were pretty good, especially in the newspaper strip. And I do enjoy seeing that. So let's see, who's the artist here? David Cabeza and Michael Attea did the cover, but David Cabeza does the art. Pretty impressive.
And who's publishing that one? Is that Dark Horse?
Yes, that's Dark Horse. In fact, it was on the page right after Bill and Ted Are Doomed.
Oh, okay.
Looks like it's two-parter.
Yeah, there's a bunch of Dark Horses that I have on my pull list, but I didn't mention them because they are they're not number ones or anything at this point.
And
that Orville does well, that Orville looks a little computer generated to me, but I'm not sure.
Any children of the 80s, and if you've watched that series on Netflix about the toys, I forget what it's called, but they're going to have a Masters of the Universe, toys and Masters of the Universe. And the reason this gets my attention is because a buddy of mine that I went to high school with, good friend of mine, actually we went to junior high and high school together. He used to design Masters of the Universe action figures. So I'd be very curious. I have to ask him if he had any, if they interviewed him or any of his, I guess some of his work would be in here. Be very interesting to see.
Yeah, Pocanjo, I think Bill and Ted could very easily go off in the wrong direction when they're middle-aged. Might just be very sad, like watching people with mental deficits in middle ages. Not as fun as hanging out with them in high school.
Right next to the Will Destroy the Galaxy for Cash, there was a collection of noir stories. It looks like it's all by current creators and not like old EC type stuff. Yeah. So I kind of have this flag to check out.
There's some very good artist list here. Kano, Jolie Jones.
Even the writers. You got Brian Azzarello, Jeff Lemire, Ed Brubaker.
They must be very short stories, though. There's only 104 pages.
Yeah. Well, it says 13 pitch black noir stories.
So they're less than 10 pages each, I guess.
Yeah. I guess about 8, doing the math. Yeah, 8. Yeah. I can do math.
I was a grown-up when Masters of the Universe came out, so I never had any of the toys. But for people of that generation, it might be a very fun book to get.
Yeah. And I love Christmas ornaments. Gotta love the Hellboy Christmas ornament.
You think you'll get that?
I don't know. It's $30. I'm not really a big Hellboy reader.
Now, you and your wife collect Christmas ornaments, right?
I wouldn't quite say collect, although we have to, if every year the Hallmark store has maybe 5 that you like, and maybe you get a couple as gifts in a stocking from somebody, let's say you get 10 a year. Well, in a decade you got 100. So
yeah. So you're not a major collector, but
no. I'll say probably when I was single, I probably bought more because I had more disposable income. But once you get a mortgage and you realize the tree can only fit so much. And I have a benevolent overlord that's a feline in this house, and she likes to climb on fir trees for some reason. So we don't put out a large tree in the boiler room studio over here.
Yes, Terrence, we're still going. I don't know how long George can go. I could probably go for another half hour or so.
Yeah, let's do it.
But do you guys get kind of geeky things like
we used to, but now because of we don't really put up a big tree anymore. Heck, I used to have 2 trees in this house
cool.
when we first moved in, but with the cat, we don't do that anymore.
Mr. Christmas, you should have a tree.
I am Mr. Christmas, yes. I'm Mr. Snow Miser, I guess. I don't know. But nobody likes a thin Santa. But we collect series. So there's a Mickey Mouse and a Snoopy series. So every year I get that. So every year I get at least 2. But when it comes to like the Star Wars, Star Trek, superhero, Harry Potter, I'm a big fan of A Christmas Story, but there are just so many leg lamps and Ralphie in the pink bunny suit and the kids with their tongues stuck to the pole. I mean, there are only so many of those you could have.
Classic Disney characters, basically.
I do well only because this Mickey Mouse thing was a series. Yeah, so it's Mickey dressed in some outfit from some movie he was in, like Sorcerer's Apprentice or Jack and the Beanstalk or whatever,
Yeah. Okay. Well,
but I do like thumbing through their dream book, which is akin to a previews.
Maybe if Meanwhile the podcast ever gets a YouTube channel, you could do a video just showing off your
Christmas ornaments. Yeah, you never know. Yeah, ornaments. Christmas ornaments and lapel pins. Forget comics.
I am wondering if I should jump on Lock and Key. I've only read the first trade ages ago, and I've meant to catch up
on. Isn't it a little late for that?
Well, there's a new miniseries starting with issue number 1 hasn't come out yet. Issue number 2 is being advertised here, so I could jump on to that miniseries.
So just to.
I'd probably just go back and read all the trades.
To let the viewers know, we have jumped over to IDW.
Yes.
And the first thing IDW is soliciting prior to Lock and Key is Goosebumps. So I've got to ask, do you and Quacking Duck either read the Goosebumps books or have you introduced her to the IDW Goosebumps comics?
Neither.
Okay.
She doesn't seem interested. I'm sure she's had many chances to read Goosebumps, and I think that's not trendy to this generation of kids, to my knowledge.
Well, just in time for Halloween, Goosebumps, and they're re-releasing, I guess, trade versions of the previous comics that IDW put out.
She and her friends are all obsessed with something called Wings of Fire.
What is that about?
It's about dragons. It's a world where humans don't exist, and it's just dragons.
Oh, okay, great.
And they do have graphic novels of that, and we get those, and they have 13 novels so far. There will no doubt be movies and TV shows eventually because there's so many kids enamored by this book series. Oh. But she's shown no interest in Goosebumps, so I hope that doesn't disappoint you too much.
No. Let me ask you about this. When it comes to, I mean, she's older. I mean, coloring books are probably past her, but what about the adult coloring books that have more detailed pictures in them? Any interest in those? Or even for you, or even your wife?
My wife likes coloring, so I suppose I should look at those.
Being in the Northern Virginia area, not just because I'm in the Northern Virginia area, but I'm a fan of the Smithsonian. And here they have Smithsonian-sponsored books, coloring books about airplanes and dinosaurs. And
do you enjoy adult coloring, as they call it?
I've bought a couple in my day, and none of them have been cracked open to be colored in. So I'm going to say no. I enjoy seeing. I've bought some that are recreations of covers, comic book covers, and I think I just enjoy seeing them in black and white. It's almost like a small artist's edition. I don't want to color in it. I don't want to ruin it.
I bought some of those Marvel ones, and I don't want to ruin it.
I know. That's so stupid. I don't understand. Because I would like to. It would be interesting to color in them, but maybe.
Bullseye Bob from the Portland Comics crew, he is an incredible. He does that adult coloring stuff, and he's shown me stuff he's done, and it's amazing. He's like gotten this incredible color sense and works all the different shades and everything, and it's very impressive. So, and my wife does some pretty amazing adult coloring too.
My wife used to work with a young lady who she became friends with through work, so a work acquaintance. So the friendship didn't last when they didn't work. You fall off sometimes when you leave a particular job and you're not in that microcosm anymore. But the young lady came here a few times, and we were just kind of hanging around. The point was just to sit and watch, I don't know, whatever TV show was on network TV at the time. And she would bring coloring books. And this was before the adult coloring book fad that we're in now, where the pictures are really detailed. So it was like a real, like Mickey Mouse coloring book that you would also buy for your 5-year-old kid. And she would sit there and she would color in them, but she would shade them so nicely that they looked like they were professional pieces of artwork that could have been on an animation cell. And I was always mesmerized by that. And ever since then, I'm talking like 15 years ago. So ever since then, I was like, wow, I would like to do that. And then the adult coloring book fad came up. But then some of those details in there are just a little too tiny for me. I'm sorry. So turned me off a bit.
I think they're kind of aimed at people who find it relaxing to deal with all those deep, get just deep into the details.
Exactly.
So it looks like Pocan Joe maybe he lives in the other end of the state than you. Perhaps the real part of Virginia. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it could be Virginia Beach, could be Chesapeake. Okay, there you go. I think that's around near where Rodney is originally from, or maybe Rodney's family is originally from.
So Rodney grew up in Southern Virginia and then moved to Northern Virginia.
I'm trying to think exactly where. His friend Derek has been on the show plenty of times, and they've
talked those episodes are great when his friend comes on.
Yeah. So and they keep mentioning it, and for some reason I'm having a mental block because I think I'm confusing it with my prior co-host from the George and Tony Entertainment Show. Tony grew up in the Norfolk area, and now I'm trying to remember where the heck Rodney and Derek grew up. But maybe Rodney I'll pipe in. But,
maybe when things get better, you'll see Pocan Joe at a comic book convention in your state.
Yeah, actually, Pocan Joe. Have you ever gone to the? I forget what they call it, but the one in Virginia Beach. There's a convention center. They used to have them twice a year, I think, but of course now with the pandemic, I don't think we're going to have one until 2027. But you never know. But anyway, you are a big artist edition guy, aren't you, Damien?
Yes, but I'm trying to remember what it was this month, and I'm not sure it was one I want.
Page 126, Jim Lee's X-Men.
Yeah, okay. This is sacrilegious, but I don't like Jim Lee.
Okay. Then moving on.
How about you? Would you be tempted if you wanted to spend the money to get a Jim Lee artist edition?
No, if I was going to spend my money on an artist edition, as nice as Jim Lee's artwork is, I would not go Jim Lee's route. Of course, that is sacrilege to my co-host Rodney, who is a big fan of Jim Lee's. And if you ever see his avatar picture, it's him and his best friend Jim Lee together.
Right, I remember him mentioning that on the podcast.
Yeah.
I
say in quotes, best friend, but Rodney could always, pipe in about that.
A lot of people think Jim Lee's the greatest comic book artist ever. I think, though, it may have to do a bit with your age, what generation of comic book reader you are.
Yes, I definitely think so. And I'm going to admit, I think that's about the time maybe I was kind of weaning myself off of comics. We all have stories like that, at least at a particular age. And Jim Lee's cover art, here's the hypocrisy pills, I'll have to take them again, got me interested in seeing, what's going on in the X-Men? Who's this guy? Bye, Rod.
I was not reading many Marvel comics at the time, and I came back for X-Men #1, and I just didn't even understand it, to tell you the truth, at the time. And now I enjoyed like Batman Hush. That was very good, but it just is not, it's not the fine wine for me. It was a good superhero comic, but I just have other artists who are my favorites.
I'm going to admit,
I think we've lost Rodney because of this.
I'm going to admit the Jim Lee X-Men stuff was pretty cool. And that seems to be, this is what this artist edition focuses on. So.
Yeah, I'm sure, it would be very fun to look at. But even I, who overspends money has to be careful when you buy a $150 book, what you choose to buy.
True.
I am excited by this one it's something I've never heard of, but I just like the look of it. It's another graphic novel by someone named Andy Watson. It's called The Book Tour.
Oh, yes.
And it just looks very appealing to me. It might be one I would look for in the library or something.
Mm-hmm.
How much does it cost? Well, it's $25, so I might be able to get it for nearly half price at in-stock trade, so I might take a chance on it.
Hey, Pocan, maybe when the pandemic's over again in 2027 or something like that, we could do a little meetup at the Virginia Beach Hampton. You, me, and Rodney.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Does Rodney draw at all like Jim Lee? I assume he doesn't, but I've only seen his t-shirt designs.
I mean, Jim Lee's a big influence on him, but I mean, he's got his own style.
I'll have to look at his website more closely.
I wish I had the 2 sketch cards he did for me handy. And since we're live, I'm not going to step away just to go grab them, but I'll post them on Meanwhile ATP on Twitter in the next day or two, just so you get an idea. Or you could always follow him. He's the Art Nerd with 2 R's in the word nerd on Instagram. So check that out. His artwork's over there.
I think I do follow him on Instagram, but I never look at Instagram, so that's kind of a useless thing.
Unfortunately, neither do I. That's why he handles the Meanwhile ATP Instagram account. So, I'm only doing this for your co-host Matt, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Raphael. Yeah, I'm assuming you'll be getting that.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to do the best of all of them. So, I guess Matt's not in here, is he? He doesn't watch your channel?
He doesn't. No, he never watches my channel.
Come on, I even got Rodney to watch. Come on.
He pretends he watches my channel.
But then again, Kristen's not watching, so you know.
He's much better. Rodney's much better than Matt. Rodney's a much better co-host. This one looks curious. Hey, Amateur.
Yes.
And it's from IDW, but also from Black Crown, which I thought had ceased to exist. But I guess I'm wrong on that. It's an anthology, a variety. I'm not sure what the theme is.
Oh, I could tell. Well,
it's a how-to book.
Yeah, 1-page instructions on how to do all sorts of things. Has nothing necessarily to do with comics.
So I'm less excited. I like that Mike Allred cover, but I'm not sure I want a comic book how-to book.
And it's almost like it's in the. Did you read the Marvel Comics 1000 and 1001? Where different artists.
Oh no, I did not read those.
Okay, so both of those different artists
through a digital edition later on.
Okay, but now both of those different artists did each page, and each page was like a 9-panel grid for the most part, maybe 6 panels or whatever. But for the most part, on average, it was a 9-panel grid. That's what this book is: just a bunch of 9-panel grids by different artists and writers instructing you how to do something. How to do an air guitar solo, how to be the perfect party host. Those are 2 of the examples on the preview page. And
preview page,
written by people by Kelly Sue DeConnick, Gene Ha, Leah Moore, drawn by Jen Hickman, Raphael Albuquerque, Martin Simmons, who did the artwork for my favorite Black Crown title, Punk's Not Dead. So this is high on my list.
I assume this is all kind of tongue-in-cheek, ironic stuff. How to pack groceries with machine-like efficiency. Fake guitar solo. Because I already know how to do at least one of those.
I'd like to learn how to carve a pumpkin.
And I think those are the only IDW ones that I highlighted, but any other IDWs on your...
Oh, no, I'm ready to move on.
I'm not sure if we mentioned Tom King's Batman or if Pocan just wanted to throw that in there. I gave up on Tom King's Batman, so I agree with you there, Pocan. In Dynamite, I was just amazed how many Vampirilla and Red Sonja comics there are.
Yeah, they're carrying the line.
And Mars Attacks Red Sonja.
Believe it or not, I'm going to get that.
Sorry?
I'm going to get that.
It's got a cool cover. I love Robbie the Robot. He's not from Mars, though.
Number one got my attention. John Layman writes it. John Layman is writing the book that Rodney really likes, Outer Darkness. And he wrote Chew.
Good things on that.
Yeah. So, and he also wrote for Aftershock, still writing because it's not over yet. The Man Who Effed Up Time. I don't know if you're reading that. That's a good one.
No, I'm not. You know what? I stopped reading any Aftershock books because they charge an extra $1 for the first issue of every one.
Yeah. I wish they had back matter like Hoy does.
Yeah, they're not as good of a value as Ahoy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We should be sure to talk about Ahoy before we go. Since
we are. Oh, trust me.
Ahoy. Yeah, I love the Blasted or Stash It show. I saw you guys when you went to Seattle to the con, or the con that never happened in Seattle. That was fun. But sadly, I never catch you guys live anymore. Hardly ever. They did a when they were in Seattle. They went to Seattle even though the con was canceled, and they shot a live show on both their channels at the same time. So you saw the same scene from 2 different cameras at 2 different angles. It was really cool. And he says that he's going to Baltimore Con. I wonder if that will happen because I would like to go to the con in Baltimore someday.
Baltimore Con's fun.
That would be a good way to see a lot of my friends from that area.
I'd be curious, Poken. This is weird being able to get instant feedback from viewers here. So I'll just put this out there and we can move on. But they used to do the Harvey Awards at Baltimore Comic-Con. Now they do the Ringo Awards. I think the Harvey Awards now are done in New York. And I used to go to the Harvey Awards. I used to attend. And that's where I met Greg Schiegel, who, while, I mean, I'm not going to say we're friends or anything like that, but Greg Schiegel is a friend of the show. Our show. And Greg had a big part in helping me end my previous podcast, the George and Tony Entertainment Show, and had a big part in helping us introduce our new podcast, Meanwhile at the Podcast. So I have to thank him for that. But I met him and Chris Giarusso, who hosts the Cruising Together podcast, at the Harvey Awards when they were held at Baltimore Comic-Con a few years ago.
Well, so eventually cons will come back. I have a feeling we're heading towards a wave of everything being canceled again, sadly.
Yeah, it's almost like you just got to think ahead to 2021.
Dynamite. The next one's a Boom one, or do you have more Dynamite that you
want to point out? That if there are Rob Liefeld fans out there, they're doing Rob Liefeld homage covers for some of their books, where an artist will mimic a Rob Liefeld famous cover that he did in the past. They did this with Jim Lee, actually, a month or two, well, probably the month or two before the pandemic started. But they're doing Rob Liefeld. And if that's a little tease as to the podcast I was talking about before, you may want to listen to Meanwhile at the Podcast Saturday when we post it, just to let you know.
If it's a Rob Liefeld podcast, I'm not sure I'm going to be subscribing.
I'm just teasing. All right, boom.
I mean, it's cool that it's actually cool to me that they do Rob Liefeld homage covers. I don't know what it has to do with Dynamite Comics.
I think it's
Rob
more.
Liefeld has no connection to Dynamite Comics.
I think it's more celebrating Image. I don't know if it's an Image anniversary. I don't think it's a big anniversary, but I think what they were doing is spotlighting Image creators. Because again, they did Jim Lee earlier this year.
Dynamite is spotlighting Image creators.
Well, they picked. No, well, they picked 2 Image creators, Jim Lee and now Rob Liefeld. So I'm guessing it has something to do with that. Right. They didn't just randomly pick those 2 guys. There's got to be some reason why. And the thing that I think ties them together is the founding of Image.
And Dynamite, who does not have creator-owned comics, is celebrating the leaders, creators of creator-owned comics.
Yeah, hey, it's another random variant cover that you can purchase and make more money.
Yeah.
All right, so what do you have at Boom?
Boom. I am curious because of it's written by Al Ewing. Of We Only Find Them When They're Dead.
Yes.
Which looks like a really crazy cosmic science fiction story with people who basically find floating bodies of giant gods in outer space. And this one crazy space captain who's searching to try to find a living space god. So I'm all on that. I think I've already ordered it from my comic shop.
I'm trying to see if there's an age thing on here, but the first book that they solicit called Wind, at least the cartooning makes it look like it might be all ages. Now, is this something that...
I am confused because I saw people reviewing this a few weeks ago. It came out in the comic book shops already.
Well, I mean, they solicit 4 issues in here, so maybe it was released prior to the pandemic and now it's all being re-released in some way.
It does look like a kid's comic. I can't remember.
Do you think something like this would interest Quacking Duck or no?
Possibly. To tell you the truth, though, it's $5 an issue.
Oh, is it really? I didn't even notice that.
I know it's 48 pages, so it's a better deal, but I will probably wait for some kind of digital.
What does she read anyway? I mean, like here, I just thumbed past Lumberjanes. I mean, what does she read? I mean, is there something she religiously reads?
Well, I think you'll find with a, comics take years to come out and kids grow and change all the time.
Yeah.
So nothing remains religious. We religiously read Lumberjanes for a while, but then we moved on.
I see.
We religiously read. We kept coming back to Squirrel Girl. So we will read a bunch of Squirrel Girl, get tired of it, come back to it.
I see.
I say we because both of those we read digitally together. An iPad's very good for going panel to panel when you're reading to your child.
I see.
She's reading on her own a lot of stuff on something called Webtoons, which is a Korean app for digital comics.
Here I am nodding my head like I do. I'm aware of it, but I've never...
You've heard of it.
Yeah, I've never done it. Yeah.
And she is currently reading on her own, and then I read it on my own, Amethyst, Amy Reader's Amethyst.
Enjoying it?
Has its pluses and minuses. It's only on issue 3. So right now she's hoping it will last a really long time, even though it's listed as a 6-issue series.
You bring up Amethyst, and I guess we have to discuss why we didn't talk about DC. And basically it's because they don't have a print version.
Right.
I mean, we could have very easily done the online, but I'm kind of like, again, if I don't have the hard copy in front of me, I almost like forget it's there. So I hate to say it, but a lot of these solicits, if I don't read them, I'm not going to be interested in buying them when I see them on the rack.
Well, DC is in transition, so I'm assuming eventually they'll put out a print thing. They can't do it via Diamond, which is what Previews comes out from. So,
but for right now, there's no random issue, even if I was interested in it, since I haven't read the solicit. Basically in September, I'm not really going to care about a DC book, except maybe that the 3 Jokers thing. But even now, I'm so over it that I don't even care anymore, to be honest with you. I mean, they dragged it out so much. It has nothing to do with the pandemic. They just dragged it out. What does Gore say here about Wind?
He says it did come out 2 weeks ago, and it was already reviewed on. Well, he mentions a good channel for reviews, John's Comics with Kids. They do a long live review of new comics. Like they pick one new comic each week, I think.
Well, I could do without that cover right there, so I'm glad I don't have the digital version. Yeah.
I get a lot of DC comics, so right now I still kind of like DC more than Marvel, so I'll probably look through their catalog.
Cool.
But I haven't yet.
Yeah. But anyway, that's why we didn't talk about it.
Did you have any Boom comics you had your eye on?
No, I mean, I was interested in the same one you were, and I just had that question about Wind, so that's it.
Yeah. So I'll probably check out Wind eventually, I feel like the reviews haven't been as keen on Wind as some other Boom comics. Boom has kind of had a hot streak lately. I marked, I can't remember why, I marked The Unkindness of Ravens. Maybe that was another one that my daughter thought looked interesting. I think it's about school for witches or something. And as I said, I'm kind of tired of magic schools. Yeah, it's a school for witches. So I think that was for my daughter.
Maybe because it was by Dan Panosian?
Yeah, that name sounds familiar, but I'm not sure from where. And then I marked, I marked 7 Secrets
Yeah, well, if nothing else, here's the hypocrite of me. I mean, that's a beautiful picture, the cover, but I mean, that's not going to make me buy it. But I mean, that's a beautiful cover.
Yeah, and it's written by Tom Taylor, which is why
Mhm.
I'm curious about it.
Yeah.
That might be the kind of thing that I want to look at the artwork before I buy it. And
This
that's
is
often my frustration with previews, because cover artists are no longer at all like the interior
oh
artists.
yeah, no.
I'm much happier when they they show you some interior art, because
Yeah.
that matters more to me in the long run.
This is so great that we're doing this via video because I'm so accustomed to Rodney or Kristen or I showing each other something. In fact, you'll probably hear on episode 62 on Saturday, Kristen showed us the masks that Comic Logic have with their logo on it. So that doesn't translate well to audio only. You know, when
Right.
she goes to put the mask on and it looks really cool. Oh, well, how do we convey this? You know, so it's really cool now that you held that up. Everybody can see it and appreciate that artwork.
Well, and it actually says that it's the person who did the cover is the interior artist. So that is actually a good sign.
Yeah.
So, and Tom Taylor is a very good writer who's a bit underrated still.
Well, I mean, everybody's loving his DC script.
His DC's book, and he's done a lot of other good DC and Marvel work.
Yep.
But so I haven't read any indie books by him before. So I may check that out. If number one, I'm not going to put it on my poll, but if number one shows up at my shop, I'll get that.
Do we have time for anything on the other side of the book?
Sure. Well, I have to go in about 20 minutes.
Okay.
But what else have you got your eye on?
Ablaze on page 199 has a graphic novel called Graveyard Wars. The premise is pretty interesting, where these two kids can somehow absorb the abilities of the dead, but of course they don't keep those abilities, and I guess they can pick and switch, and I guess they got to hang around the graveyard. I don't know how it's going to work, but it's been opted, like so many comic properties are, it's been opted to be a TV series
already. Wow.
Yeah, to be executive produced by John Wick franchise director Chad Streletsky. So, you know, interesting concept, and like you say, it's nice to see some interior pages, and there are some interior pages here, and they look pretty good.
Yeah, they do.
I might do that. I don't see an age range readily. Oh, teen.
Teen.
Yeah.
Horror, action, adventure.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's a little bit too mature for Quacking Duck. I don't know how old Quacking Duck is.
He does not like horror. Anything with blood is out.
Listen, she's. I understand. And I don't buy these things, but on page 201, I always like doing this. Yes. Go ahead. Do it.
Is that what you're going for?
Just for the joke.
Aardvark comics.
Yeah.
Which, even though Jared Osborne, who I've often taken his advice, he loves these books from sort of Cerebus in Hell or whatever they are, that are just collage comics. I just can't quite bring myself to pull a trigger on them. Interesting thing on those Aardvark, on those Cerebus comics, is they list at $4 rather than $3.99.
Right.
Which is kind of refreshing. But I guess I should. I don't know if they even come out with trades of that. But
yeah, I don't know how it all works.
We must be getting near Ahoy.
Oh yeah, but before we do that, Abrams Comic Art's at the bottom of that same page where the
Guantanamo Voices.
Yeah, I did mention that I like graphic novels about nonfiction, and this one here about Voices from Guantanamo sounds kind of interesting. And Comic Logic allowed me to put some pics of mine on their shelf. And one of the pics I had was Pyongyang by Guy Delisle. And I like his books. They're travel logs. And he's gone to places that most of us will never go. And if we go there, you're probably in the military and you're there for some reason, you know, you're at a base. Not many people are going to go to Pyongyang, but he went there and he has he illustrated a travel log about it. So I like these sequential art depictions of experiences I'm never going to have or places I'm never going to go. And I find those interesting.
I hope you're not going to Guantanamo.
I hope so too.
It might have been one of the vacations you'd planned, but if so, I'm glad that got canceled.
Well, it's the whole Hitman thing that we were talking about before. So that could happen.
Well, I gotta say, Terrence says you guys are making me miss previews. I have enjoyed previews a lot more when you got. So all of this is inspired by the preview show you and Eric on Longbox Review did.
Yeah, but
Listening to your podcast
Eric up
about it.
for well, I shouldn't say I kept him up because I'm my time zone's earlier. So
Right.
I mean, I'm later, so we'd be there for like 5 hours or so. I don't know.
But now that made previews a lot more fun, and
I'm glad.
now I get my daughter to look through previews with me, and that makes it fun.
Oh, that's cool. Now you're in the Portland area, so you have a lot of creators by you.
Yes.
And I'm in the Northern Virginia area, and like I said, Rodney's a sketch card artist. We have some creators here also, and I was kind of hoping that one of our local yokels from here was going to have his book from Action Lab in this month's preview, so I could boast about it. But it's not there. We have a local creator named John Riley here, and he writes a book that Action Lab puts out called Harold, Lovecraft, and Tesla, where
that sounds interesting.
H.P. Lovecraft and Nikola Tesla are the main characters, and there are other, like Mark Twain's in it, Amelia Earhart. It's just Albert Einstein. It's just a bunch of characters from history in this supernatural fun setting, and unfortunately, it comes out sporadically because of I guess scheduling between him and the artist and getting things out. And I was kind of hoping they would start a new arc that was going to be in this preview so we could talk about it, but unfortunately not. But we do have creators that get stuff in previews here in the Northern Virginia area.
So Gore is talking about a show on the channel called Dr. Monkeybot.
Oh, yes.
Which Comic Crack appears on regularly. It's just a live hangout. It actually is kind of a perfect podcast to listen to at work because you don't need to be looking at them, and they just chat about what comics they've read lately. And it
average about 2 hours, right?
Yes. It's good to pass the time. I sometimes download it and listen to it when I go on a walk.
Yes, I have seen a couple of them.
Yeah, I listen to Meanwhile at the podcast.
Who's the third person on there? Isn't there usually a third?
La Raza.
La Raza. Mm-hmm.
So it's a Brit, a Lithuanian who lives in England, and a Canadian. No Americans on the show at all. So
and that's the way it should be.
Fresh air.
That's right. It is refreshing. New voices that you and I wouldn't always hear. So that's good.
I feel like the YouTube comics community has become more USA than it was a few years ago. I feel like there used to be more Canadians and more Brits and more continental Europeans doing YouTube videos than there are now. But it might also, there's so many more people doing it. I might just be missing the Brits and the Canadians and such.
I don't know what pages you have flagged off, but I had something in Aftershock on page 219.
I may have flagged that. No, I flagged one on 214.
Okay, so go ahead, since that comes first.
It's called Disaster Inc. And as I said, I don't actually buy Aftershock floppies anymore. Mm-hmm. But I do kind of keep an eye on them for potential trades. And this one is written by a guy named Joe Harris, who I remember enjoying his comic Great Pacific quite a bit. And I like the title name, Disaster Inc. And the cover looks good, but I'm not sure. The cover is not by the interior artist. So. But it's it looks like a samurai science fiction story, basically. What was 219?
Yeah, well, anybody who's been listening to my show lately may have heard me mention once or twice that during the pandemic, for some reason, the books that I've been picking from my to-read pile have been war-related, whether it be World War I or World War II. And this book, Out of the Blue, written by Garth Ennis with art by Keith Burns.
You like war, you're going to like Garth Ennis, right?
Yeah, and I'm not going to say I'm an aficionado of Garth Ennis's war books, but I know he's known for it. And there's something about this Out of the Blue series that is interesting. So I have it checked off. Whether or not I actually get it, it's another story, but it's pretty interesting.
Well, and it's a hardcover for $30. That sounds like a good deal. Full color. Yeah. Compared to their floppies. And then on the next page, we come to your favorite comic book company of all.
My favorite publisher. Yes. Ahoy Comics. I cannot shout enough about the merits of this comic book company. and they only have 2 original titles coming out in September: Ash and Thorn #5 and Billionaire Island #6. And they have some compilations of Edgar Allan Poe's Snifter of Terror just in time for Halloween. I've only read issue 1 of Billionaire Island. I haven't read any of Ash and Thorn yet. I've read all of Edgar Allan Poe. Fantastic books. The back matter is impeccable. Do not sleep on the back matter. I used to tweet about the back matter and the books themselves randomly whenever one of the back matter stories really got me. And the value for the $3.99 is just incredible. So if you're not reading any Ahoy comics, you may want to go with Ash and Thorn, which is 2 old ladies are our only hope against the supernatural. Looks like some Lovecraftian type of monsters.
Has the first one of those come out? Because I didn't see it.
I think the first one is out now. I think it didn't come out. It was on the cusp of coming out, and then everything crashed.
So I wonder if #5 will really be coming out in September, or.
Well, I mean, they did a double up on Billionaire Island in last month's previews for issues 4 and 5.
Oh, okay. So maybe they're going to release some of these twice a month.
Right, because a lot of these may have already been published and sitting in the warehouse. You never know.
Billionaire Island, I've only seen #1 so far.
Yes, and I have read it, and it was good. Mark Russell writes it.
I missed Ash and Thorn then, or maybe it'll be there. I haven't been to my comic book shop yet.
But
I love Edgar Allan Poe's Snifter of Terror. And so there were 2 seasons, and now there's 2 trades.
Mm-hmm.
But I think at the end of the second season, they said this is the end of the series.
Well, they're going to call it. It's not going to be Snifter of Terror. It's going to be a different kind of, like, not highball glass, but the highball of horror or whatever. They're going to call it something else. It'll be back.
And I just heard an interview on a show that you probably listen to, Creator Talks.
Oh yes.
And when they said that they're using Edgar Allan Poe like Mad Magazine used Alfred E. Newman, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense, and that makes it even more cool.
Mm-hmm. That was great.
Yeah, I love that series. Unlike you, I have not read every Ahoy comic, but I definitely have a very high opinion of Ahoy comics.
Oh yeah.
And I do love the back matter, and I just feel like it's one of the best deals in single issues because they also use incredibly good paper. And they have great colorists, and so it's really nice to see that coloring on the really good paper.
I'll tell you, some of those
Really
short
nice
stories, man, they can hit you in the gut. I mean, some are funny, some, they can't all be hits, but the majority of them are, and some of them really get you. I mean, in just however many words you can fit on one page. I mean, they can be pretty powerful in a very short space.
Yeah. The Mighty Masked Panther is here. He and I have been watching each other on YouTube for generations.
I have to tip my mask too. There we go.
Yeah, the Masked Panther never appears on screen without his mask on.
Oh, okay.
Except once, a long time ago, at the end of an episode, he didn't realize he was still filming, and he pulled it off, and I saw his face.
Don't tell him that now, because that ninja's going to.
He knows I've seen his face.
All right. He's going to send a ninja out.
Hey, Sam, yeah, we're still going. We're probably going to end in about 10 minutes.
So now we have to pick and choose, right? So let's see. What else you have?
It was important to get to Ahoy.
Oh, it was.
There's this new publisher, or new to me. They published a few books, and I got a Spirit one they put out. And now they have a book reprinting some old Pirates comics.
And now what page are you on?
Oh, I'm sorry. I should say it's page 250.
Okay, great. I'll skip it.
And so it's a reprint book. It's only 80 pages. I kind of like the idea of getting an 80-page collection of old pirate comics. Until reading Watchmen, it never occurred to me people would make pirate comics. And I guess, there was a phase where publishers were doing pirate comics. They didn't take off the way superheroes did, except in the Watchmen universe.
They make comics about a lot of subjects that today,
they are, I guess, reselling books they already had out, because I got this Spirit book, which was very good.
A lot of reselling here, I think, is really what
I got this Kevin Eastman book, and it was not good.
Oh no.
Totally Twisted Tales. Even though it has Simon Bisley on art, I hated it. Maybe other people will love it, but I thought I would like it, with Kevin Eastman and Simon Bisley. I think it might be a reprint of some old thing they did once upon a time.
Well, any Tenacious D fans out there, Fantagraphics is putting out their graphic novel called
Really?
Postal Potato.
I missed that. What page is that?
Page 258. Drawn by Jack Black and written by him and Kyle Gass. So,
Drawn by Jack.
I mean, here, let's see if we can.
It looks like a Fantagraphics comic, so I didn't even notice it. I would have not have guessed Jack Black as a Fantagraphics style artist.
There you go.
Jack Black has his own YouTube channel, which I watch occasionally.
Does he? Oh my God, all this content out there.
I watch more YouTube than TV. The only TV I watch is with my daughter, and then when she goes to bed, I watch YouTube.
Along the lines of George Takei's recent graphic novel, where he did a graphic novel depiction of his time in the Japanese internment camps. Where are we? There's another one called Displacement.
Oh, is that, and it's also by George Takei, or just
no, but it's on the heels of the one that came out from was it IDW a couple of I guess at the tail end of last year. This one is by
Kiku Hughes.
Yeah, and talks about, well, it seems like it's told from the perspective of somebody who lives in our time and gets sent back in time to maybe her grandmother while she was in the internment camp. It seems like it has a little bit of a supernatural, just to get somebody from the present into the past somehow to
okay, that is from First Second Publishers, who are a very good publisher, usually of young adult graphic novels.
So that might be interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so we're coming to the tail end. So what else do you have? I flagged so many things, but a lot of them don't really merit talking about, especially since we're...
I flagged one from someone called Keenspot Entertainment that my daughter liked the title of. It's called Beelzebub. So maybe we will get that for my daughter. It's about a girl who's part demon and part human. And her mother was an angel and her father is Beelzebub, one of the 7 princes of darkness. But she's going to grade school.
I seem to recall in Marvel Fanfare, the first after the big Marvel Fanfare X-Men Spider-Man story in the Savage Land, sometime after that there was a Man-Thing story, and in the Man-Thing story, the bad guy was Beelzebub, and for some reason, almost 40 years later, I remember that. I don't remember the story, but I remember some guy named Beelzebub was up there with the Man-Thing in a Marvel Fanfare issue. Funny how the mind works.
Well,
you talk about resolicits. This is a book I'm getting, and it was solicited prior to the pandemic. Versailles, My Father's Palace. It's from Humanoids.
Did you mention that before? That sounds familiar. Did you talk about it on an episode of Longbox Review?
So because Eric and I haven't done one in this calendar year, so I don't think so.
Then maybe I just noticed it myself at some point.
It's a fascinating historical biography of the man who brought fame, grandeur, and revolution back to the Palace of Versailles, officially approved by the Palace of Versailles. And it's written by, these are some fun French names here, Pate Labat, Jean-Baptiste Weber, and Alexis Vetrebert.
Maybe I heard about that a long time ago on someone else's podcast. Some podcast was talking about that.
I'm looking forward to reading that. I got into the Versailles TV show. I believe that was on Ovation. I forgot what channel that was on, but that was a good TV show. So when I saw that book, I immediately wanted to pick it up.
So both Terrence Comic Crack and Gore Vidal are asking us to look more at Fantagraphics, but to tell the truth, there's only 2 pages of Fantagraphics, and I can't really tell what the other ones are. There's one called Aqua Atlantic, and there's another issue of Now magazine, which I have bought a couple of times, but never gotten deeply into, and the cover of Now magazine is, you can't really even tell what's going on there. And then there's a bunch of reprints of Donald Duck comics, Carl Barks comics.
I've bought a few of those hardcovers, and they're good.
Sorry, what's good?
Those reprints of the Disney comics. I bought a few, here and there. There was one that had the Three Caballeros in it. I'm a big Three Caballeros fan. Anything else to do with them, I pick it up. That was pretty good.
So Fantagraphics doesn't put out a lot of stuff in any one given month. They also have Streets of Paris, Streets of Murder, the complete noir stories of Manchette and Tardy. So that might be interesting. But again, the cover is so tiny, you can't. So I'm afraid that it's hard for me with the catalog to tell what's going on with Fantagraphics.
I'm going to skip ahead since we're running short on time. On Pegasus, page 302 from Pegasus Books, you being the historian, and a lot of your listeners probably are historians too. Captain America, a granddaughter's memoir. This is the granddaughter of Joe Simon.
Oh, that would be interesting.
And of course, it's not a graphic novel. It's a prose book, a memoir about Joe Simon. So might be interesting for historical purposes.
Indeed.
Yeah. So I know a lot of folks out there are interested in the history of comics, and Joe Simon with Jack Kirby created a little Captain America. A lot of characters out there. All right. You know what? I've skipped so many things because we have a drop dead time, but that's fine.
Comic Crack's excited over the Manchette and Tardy book. I know who Tardy is, a famous European artist, but I don't know who Manchette is.
And what book is that?
That was one I mentioned from Fantagraphics. So it's a reprint of European artists, European work being done by Fantagraphics. So I'll have to look into Manchette and find out more about that. Thanks.
I do have to say I have been enjoying European translated books lately. We're talking about that on the show too. On page 322, Back Issue Magazine is celebrating the 40th anniversary of the New Teen Titans.
Well, we know someone who must get that issue.
We know somebody who has a long box and reviews them plenty of times.
I get about, I don't know, 60 or 70% of the back issue magazines, pick and choosing depending on the subject. I guess I like the Teen Titans. I don't know if I already read about them a lot, but so something I keep thinking about getting is 2000 AD.
Oh,
you can order that from your comic shop, but you have to order it in 4-packs. So you get it's a weekly comic, but they deliver it to the US in packages of 4 for the month. And I'm always a little hesitant to do that because I'm worried it'll be too much to read at once. It would be easier if you actually got it every week.
Right.
Just because my rhythm of reading comics is kind of a weekly thing.
Right.
I suppose I could just slip them into my weekly piles, one each week.
Right, exactly. And by the time you were done, you'd pick up the other 4. Right. Do you buy anything from Vault by any chance?
I do, and I did tag Heavy from Vault by Max Bemis, just because I like the look of the covers, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, with Vault, my comic book store doesn't carry their stuff, so I would like to flip through them before I buy them. So I've kind of randomly picked some to get, and some have been really great, and others have not done so much for me, which, is not surprising. This one, Autumnal, also looked a little tempting to me. Can't remember why.
Is that a number 1?
It's a number 1, yeah.
Well, on page 337, they're continuing a book that I got into, Money Shot. Where is it? There it is.
You dirty old man.
I'm a dirty old man, yes. And of course, I'm covering it because I have not mastered the whole video thing yet. But anyway.
I've heard the plot, which is on the same page, is great, so I just ordered the trade of that from In Stock Trades.
I mean, it's Tim Seeley,
Oh, it's Tim Seeley for
They
one shot.
wrote it together. Rebecca Isaacs does the art. It's beautiful. I'd say check it out. Don't show it to Quack and Duck, but
Yes,
it's mature audiences.
well, that is a consideration because Quacking Duck, I have to literally find hiding places if there's stuff I don't want her to stumble across.
Yes, I can imagine.
And my dad used to try to hide certain books that he got, and I always found them. That's how I read, what was it called? The Happy Hooker.
Oh, yikes. And if you talking about manga, on page 367, Fly Me to the Moon. I do read the manga section. Fly Me to the Moon.
Do you plan to read that manga?
You know what? I have a couple of manga. There's one similar to Second Coming, where God sends Jesus to live with the superhero by Mark Russell, that came out from Ahoy. But this one is Jesus and Buddha live together somewhere in Japan.
Oh.
And the thing is, there's humor in it. And the thing is, because of the whole reading backwards to us, I feel I'm missing some of the humor. So I don't know if it's the translation or I'm reading one panel before I'm supposed to read the other one.
Oh.
Whereas other types of manga that I've read that are more action oriented or a little more plot driven than trying to find a punchline, I feel I've got a handle on those. But this one, where the jokes are coming or the sly references are coming, I think I'm missing something. So I do read some manga, not a lot of it. One of the ones that I've only read volume 1 of that I enjoyed was Way of the House Husband. Volume 4 is already coming out, but Way of the House Husband is pretty good. That's a hitman now becomes domesticated, and of course hijinks ensue.
So I want to just back up in the comments here. Weird Dad, who thanks for joining us. He came in recently. Is talking about AWA, which we skipped over that.
Okay.
But I have been wanting to get some of their comics, and I heard that Hotel or Hell was really great. But because of the COVID stuff, I didn't get to hunt it down in when my shop doesn't get it, I usually go hunt things that sound good in other stores, but they're all closed. And so yeah, I feel really bad that I missed Hotel. And there was another AWA one that I wanted to get that I missed out on. So I may have to order those things online. But I want to thank everyone who's joined us. Max Washington Songs, Gore Vidal. I'll probably miss some people. Comic Crack, Weird Dad, William Smallwood, Mass Panther was here. Sam's Tangled Web was here. And so many other people. So it was a great pleasure. Lots of great comments, lots of cool people, Pocan Joe. So this was really fun. And so I hope we can do it. I'm not going to guarantee both of us will be free every month, but maybe we can jump in whenever we can and do some preview shows together.
Yeah, have a little fun.
And hopefully get my podfather, Eric from Longbox Review, to join us sometimes too, or maybe the show will return to his podcast someday. I don't know if you guys canceled it for good or it was just on hiatus.
He might be over going through previews the way we used to.
It was very time consuming. Yeah.
It was, and I mean the preparation for it. I mean, for instance, you and I just skipped a bunch of stuff. At least I know I did, just for time constraint purposes. And look how long we've been going. Yeah. So it can get to a point where you realize you're 2 hours in and you didn't get to say that one thing you wanted to say.
Right. Yeah, and I think when you guys did it, you took notes and things like that. I just put a bunch of stickies in here as I looked through it for myself anyway.
Right.
And just because I view this channel anyway as very casual. When you're doing a podcast, you start feeling the need to edit, and that can take a lot of time in a long podcast.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah, it was so anyway, and I really appreciate you making time for us, George. And anyone who's made it to the end of the show, I'll point out again, there's links to Meanwhile at the Podcast down below. And you can follow George at Meanwhile in the Podcast on Twitter. And there's also, sorry?
We abbreviated it to Meanwhile ATP on Twitter and Instagram.
Meanwhile ATP. Okay, I'll try to put those down below too after the fact. But anyway, hopefully you'll be back on the channel again soon, and people will get really used to you and want to listen to that podcast.
Oh, God.
Join the other 3 viewers or listeners of your podcast.
Yeah, we'd like to double our listenership. So, any 3 of you who might want to randomly subscribe, hey, that would be, it's all about percentages, folks.
And it was fantastic to have Rodney participate while he drew.
Yeah, well, who knows which of the Star Wars cards he was actually drawing. He should put a little note on the back. Drawn while watching.
What was he listening to or watching while he this? Okay, well, time to go. Thanks, everyone. See you later.